Hello and welcome to Black Magic, your home for amazing stories. Today's story is what if Harry's blood protection awakened ancient blood magic at age 4 and he could control any wizard's blood. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoy it, and subscribe if you haven't already. We post new stories regularly. Let's get started. Chapter 1, The Awakening. Harry Potter hated living with the Dursleys. At 4 years old, he already knew he wasn't wanted. Uncle Vernon's face turned purple whenever Harry entered a room. Aunt Petunia's lips pinched tight like she'd tasted something sour. And Dudley? Well, Dudley just liked to hit him. But today felt different. Harry woke up in his cupboard under the stairs with a weird buzzing under his skin. Like tiny ants marching through his veins. He rubbed his arms, trying to make the feeling go away, but it only got stronger. Boy! Get up and make breakfast. Aunt Petunia's shrill voice pierced through the cupboard door. Harry stumbled out, still rubbing his arms. When he looked up at his aunt, something strange happened. He could see something flowing inside her, thin, watery streams moving through her body. They weren't very bright, just dull currents that moved sluggishly. What are you staring at? Get moving. She shoved him toward the kitchen. Harry blinked hard. The weird vision disappeared. He must have been imagining things. By the time bacon sizzled in the pan, Harry's skin buzzed so intensely he nearly dropped the spatula twice. Uncle Vernon stomped into the kitchen, newspaper tucked under his arm. Don't burn it this time, he growled. When Harry glanced at his uncle, those strange streams appeared again, dull, slow-moving rivers just like Aunt Petunia's. But something felt wrong about them. Empty, somehow. Harry's distraction cost him. The bacon sizzled too long, edges blackening. I said don't burn it. Uncle Vernon's meaty hand grabbed Harry's shoulder. Pain shot through Harry's body. His scar burned white-hot. The buzzing in his veins exploded outward. Uncle Vernon froze. His face turned from purple to pale in seconds. Vernon. Aunt Petunia stepped forward. What's wrong? Uncle Vernon's hand fell from Harry's shoulder. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. He just stood there, eyes wide with confusion. Harry felt something new, a connection, like invisible strings running from his body to his uncle's. He could feel those dull rivers inside Vernon slowing down, almost stopping. I don't. Vernon's voice came out weak. Can't move properly. Harry backed away, frightened. The invisible string snapped, and Uncle Vernon stumbled forward, catching himself on the kitchen counter. What did you do? He snarled at Harry, but there was fear behind the anger. Nothing. Harry cried, but even at 4, he knew something had happened. Something he'd done. Dudley waddled into the kitchen. What's that smell? Did the freak burn breakfast again? When Harry looked at his cousin, he saw the same dull streams, but Dudley's moved faster, more chaotically. And suddenly, Harry understood, he was seeing blood. Their blood. Get to your cupboard. Now. Uncle Vernon had recovered enough to yell. Harry ran, slamming the cupboard door behind him. In the darkness, he curled into a ball, heart racing. What was happening to him? Could all kids see blood moving inside people? Somehow, he didn't think so. The day passed with Harry locked in his cupboard. No meals, no bathroom breaks. Just darkness and the persistent buzzing under his skin that wouldn't go away. Night fell. The Dursleys went to bed. Harry lay awake, stomach growling. A soft scraping sound came from outside. Harry froze. Another scrape, then a click. Someone was at the front door. The cupboard suddenly felt even smaller, the darkness thicker. Harry held his breath as footsteps moved across the entrance hall, too light to be Uncle Vernon's, too deliberate to be Aunt Petunia's. The footsteps stopped right outside his cupboard. Harry's heart hammered against his ribs. The latch slid open. Harry pressed himself against the far wall. A face appeared, pale, gaunt, with dark eyes that reflected the dim light from outside. Not a Dursley. A stranger. "Hello, Potter," the man whispered. His voice rasped like sandpaper. "Finally found you." Harry saw it immediately, blood flowing through the stranger, but this blood was different. It glowed brighter, pulsed stronger, moved in strange patterns the Dursley's blood didn't. Magical blood. "Who are you?" Harry's voice came out tiny. The man smiled, teeth gleaming in the darkness. "Someone who's been looking for you for a very long time." He reached into the cupboard. Harry pressed back further, but there was nowhere to go. "The Dark Lord will reward me handsomely," the man murmured, fingers stretching toward Harry. Terror shot through Harry's body. The buzzing under his skin erupted, flowing outward like a tidal wave. The stranger's hand stopped mid-reach. His eyes widened. His mouth opened in a silent gasp. Harry felt those strange connections again, but stronger than with Uncle Vernon. Countless invisible strings linked him to the stranger, and through them, Harry could feel the man's blood, every drop, every current. "What are you doing?" The man's words came out strangled. Harry didn't know. But he could feel the man's blood slowing, thickening. Freezing solid in his veins. The stranger fell to his knees, face contorting in pain. "Impossible," he gasped. "You're just a child." Something sharp pressed against Harry's consciousness, images, memories not his own. A tall, pale man with red eyes. A green light. A woman screaming. Harry recoiled, breaking the connection. The stranger collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. Loud footsteps thundered down the stairs. "What's going on down there?" Uncle Vernon bellowed. The stranger struggled to his feet. "This isn't over, Potter," he hissed, then staggered toward the door. Uncle Vernon appeared at the bottom of the stairs in his pajamas, cricket bat in hand. "Who the bloody hell are you? How did you get in my house?" The stranger didn't answer. He stumbled out the front door and disappeared into the night. "Call the police, Petunia," Uncle Vernon shouted, not daring to follow. Harry sat frozen in his cupboard, trembling. The buzzing under his skin had subsided to a gentle hum, but he could still feel the echo of those strange connections, the feeling of someone else's blood responding to his will. He didn't understand what had happened. He only knew one thing: he'd stopped the bad man from taking him. With blood. Miles away in Scotland, Albus Dumbledore bolted upright in his bed, awakened by the wail of silver instruments in his office. He threw on a dressing gown and hurried through the castle corridors, past sleeping portraits and flickering torches. In his office, a delicate silver device spun wildly, emitting high-pitched sounds and puffs of red smoke. "No," Dumbledore whispered, stroking his beard. "It can't be." The device monitored the blood wards around Harry Potter's home, wards created by Lily Potter's sacrifice, strengthened by her blood relation to Petunia Dursley. They should have kept Harry safe from any wizard wishing him harm. But the instrument's behavior suggested something unprecedented had occurred. Not a breach of the wards, rather, an evolution of them. The protection had changed, grown stronger in ways Dumbledore had never anticipated. He waved his wand, conjuring a second instrument that measured magical outbursts. It showed a massive surge centered on number 4, Privet Drive. "Fawkes," Dumbledore called to his phoenix. "We must go immediately." The magnificent bird swooped from his perch, landing on Dumbledore's shoulder. In a flash of flame, they disappeared. Harry couldn't sleep. The Dursleys had retreated to their bedroom after the police left, having found no trace of an intruder. They'd glared at Harry as if the break-in were somehow his fault. Maybe it was. A soft pop outside made Harry stiffen. Had the stranger returned? Then came a gentle knock at the front door. Not the actions of someone trying to sneak in. "Boy!" Uncle Vernon shouted from upstairs. "See who that is. And it better not be more of your freakishness." Harry crept out of his cupboard, heart pounding. He approached the door cautiously and opened it just a crack. An old man with a long silver beard and half-moon spectacles stood on the doorstep, wearing what looked like a purple dressing gown with stars on it. Behind him, the street lay quiet and dark. "Hello, Harry," the old man said kindly. "My name is Albus Dumbledore. May I come in?" Harry hesitated. But when he looked at the old man, he saw it, blood coursing through him, brighter and more powerful than even the stranger's had been. This blood sang with energy, moving in complex patterns that reminded Harry of the stars on the man's robe. "Are you here to hurt me?" Harry asked bluntly. Dumbledore's eyes widened slightly. "No, Harry. I'm here to help you." Harry considered this, then opened the door wider. "Who is it, boy?" Uncle Vernon appeared at the top of the stairs, face red with anger. When he spotted Dumbledore, he froze. You're one of them." "Good evening, Mr. Dursley," Dumbledore said pleasantly. "I apologize for the late hour, but we have urgent matters to discuss concerning Harry." "We want nothing to do with your kind." Vernon sputtered, coming down the stairs. "Take the boy and go, if you must, but leave us normal people alone." "Vernon." Petunia appeared beside her husband, face pale. "You can't just give him away." "And why not? Nothing but trouble since he arrived. And now strange men breaking into our house in the middle of the night." Dumbledore's expression grew serious. "A man broke in. Recently?" Harry nodded. "He tried to take me. Said something about a Dark Lord." Dumbledore's face darkened. "I see. Perhaps we should continue this conversation sitting down." "There's nothing to discuss." Vernon bellowed. "I believe there is." Dumbledore's voice remained gentle, but something in it made Vernon step back. Particularly about what Harry did to stop this intruder. Harry looked up, surprised. "You know what I did?" "I have suspicions." Dumbledore smiled down at him. "Something to do with blood, perhaps?" Harry nodded slowly. "I could see it. Inside everyone. And I made it stop moving in the bad man." Vernon and Petunia exchanged horrified glances. "Most unusual," Dumbledore murmured. "And most concerning. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley, I need to examine Harry more thoroughly, and then decisions must be made about his future care." "Take him," Vernon said immediately. "We never wanted him anyway." Petunia shot her husband a look. "Vernon," the letter said, "I don't care what the letter said." Vernon's face purpled again. "The boy's a freak. More of a freak than we ever imagined. I won't have him in this house another night." Harry felt a strange sense of relief. He looked up at Dumbledore. "Can I really leave?" Dumbledore studied the Dursleys for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Pack your things, Harry. You won't be returning." Harry didn't need telling twice. He darted to his cupboard, throwing his few possessions into a plastic grocery bag, some hand-me-down clothes, a broken toy soldier he'd rescued from Dudley's trash, and a small blanket with his initials that he'd had for as long as he could remember. When he returned to the hallway, Dumbledore was writing something on a piece of parchment. "This arrangement was meant to protect you through your mother's blood," Dumbledore explained, folding the parchment into an envelope. "But it seems that protection has evolved in unexpected ways." "The blood," Harry said. "I can see yours too. It's different from theirs." He pointed at the Dursleys. "And different from the bad man's." "Fascinating," Dumbledore whispered. "Harry, I need to understand exactly what happened tonight. Would you allow me to see your memory of it?" Harry frowned, confused. "It won't hurt," Dumbledore assured him, drawing what looked like a polished stick from his sleeve. "I just need you to think very clearly about what happened with the intruder." Harry nodded. Dumbledore gently touched the stick, a wand, Harry realized, to Harry's temple. A silvery strand came away, clinging to the wand tip. "What is that?" Harry asked, amazed. "A copy of your memory," Dumbledore explained. "I'll examine it later." He tucked the silvery strand into a small vial. "Now, shall we go? I believe we've imposed on your relatives long enough." Harry nodded eagerly. He didn't look back as Dumbledore let him out the door. "Where are we going?" he asked as they walked down Privet Drive. "Somewhere safe," Dumbledore replied. "For now, a place called Hogwarts. It's a school for wizards." "Wizards?" Harry's eyes widened. "Like magic?" "Exactly like magic." Dumbledore smiled. "You're a wizard, Harry. As were your parents." "My parents?" Harry stopped walking. "Aunt Petunia said they died in a car crash." Dumbledore's smile faded. "I see the Dursleys told you very little truth. Your parents were murdered, Harry, by a very dark wizard named Voldemort, the Dark Lord your intruder mentioned. Why would someone murder them?" "A complicated question," Dumbledore sighed. "One I promise to answer when you're a bit older. For now, know that they died protecting you, and that your mother's sacrifice is what gave you this unique protection." "The blood thing?" "Yes, though I've never seen it manifest quite like this. Blood magic is ancient and powerful, and typically requires a witch or wizard to be much older before showing any aptitude for it." They reached the end of the street. Dumbledore extended his arm. "Take hold, Harry. We're going to travel in a magical way. It might feel a bit uncomfortable." Harry grabbed Dumbledore's sleeve. The world compressed around them, squeezing Harry from all sides. He couldn't breathe, couldn't see, then suddenly, they were somewhere else entirely. A massive castle loomed against the night sky, windows glowing with warm light. A lake stretched out before them, its surface rippling in the gentle breeze. "Welcome to Hogwarts," Dumbledore said, steadying Harry as he wobbled. Harry gasped, his discomfort forgotten. "It's beautiful." "Indeed it is. It will be your school when you turn 11, but for now, it will serve as a temporary home while we determine what's happening with your abilities." They walked up a sloping lawn toward the castle. Harry had a million questions but settled on the most pressing. "Am I dangerous? What I did to that man?" Dumbledore considered carefully. "Power itself is neither good nor bad, Harry. It's how we choose to use it that matters. What you did was protect yourself from someone who meant you harm. There's no shame in that." "But I hurt him." "You defended yourself," Dumbledore corrected. "There's a difference. Though I am curious, did you feel anything else when you connected with his blood? Any thoughts or memories that weren't your own?" Harry nodded slowly. "I saw a scary man with red eyes. And a green light. And heard a woman screaming." Dumbledore stopped walking. "Those aren't your memories, Harry. I believe you may have accessed the intruder's memories through his blood, a form of legilimency I've never encountered before." Harry didn't understand the word, but he understood the gravity in Dumbledore's voice. "Is that bad?" "It's unprecedented," Dumbledore said carefully. "And requires further investigation." They reached massive oak doors that swung open at their approach. The entrance hall beyond dazzled Harry, bigger than the Dursleys' entire house, with flaming torches and a marble staircase. "For tonight, you'll sleep in the hospital wing under Madame Pomfrey's care," Dumbledore explained, leading Harry up the stairs. "She'll make sure you're healthy after your ordeal." "Am I sick?" Harry asked, worried. "Not at all. But magical outbursts, especially in young children, can be taxing on the body. Better safe than sorry." They walked through corridors lined with portraits that, Harry rubbed his eyes in disbelief, moved and whispered as they passed. Some even waved at him. "The portraits are alive?" he asked. Not alive precisely, but they contain imprints of the witches and wizards they depict, Dumbledore explained. They can speak, move between frames, and even give advice, though I wouldn't recommend taking it from Sir Cadogan. He nodded toward a painting of a small knight who was challenging his pony to a duel. Eventually, they reached a set of doors marked with a red cross. Inside, rows of beds lined the walls of a long room with high ceilings. A woman in an old-fashioned nurse's uniform bustled over. "Albus! What's this about? It's the middle of the night. Poppy, this is Harry Potter. He's had quite an eventful evening and needs a safe place to rest." Madame Pomfrey's eyes widened at Harry's name, then softened as she looked him over. "Goodness, you're just a little thing, aren't you? Come along, let's get you settled." She guided Harry to a bed, fussing with pillows and blankets. Harry had never had an adult care for him this way before. It felt nice, if strange. "I'll need to run some diagnostic spells, Mr. Potter," she explained, drawing her wand. "Nothing to worry about. They won't hurt a bit." Harry nodded, watching in fascination as she waved her wand over him. Colorful lights appeared above his body, mostly green and blue, but with a bright red glow around his forehead where his scar was. "Malnourished," Madame Pomfrey muttered, shooting Dumbledore a sharp look. "Some minor vitamin deficiencies. Nothing we can't fix." She waved her wand again, and the lights changed. "But there's something else. Albus, look at his magical core." Dumbledore stepped closer, peering at a pulsing golden light in the center of Harry's chest. Threads of deep crimson extended outward from it, running through Harry's body like veins. "Blood magic," Dumbledore confirmed quietly. "Active and growing. I've never seen anything quite like it, especially in one so young." "Is something wrong with me?" Harry asked, fear creeping into his voice. "Not wrong," Dumbledore assured him. "Different. Special. But we need to understand it better." Madame Pomfrey vanished the lights with another wave. "He needs rest now. Questions can wait until morning." She handed Harry a small vial of purple liquid. "Dreamless sleep potion. Just a small dose for a boy your size. It will help you sleep without nightmares." Harry took it hesitantly. "Will you still be here when I wake up?" he asked Dumbledore. "I'll return in the morning," Dumbledore promised. "For now, rest. You're safe here." Harry drank the potion. It tasted like warm honey and lavender. Almost immediately, his eyelids grew heavy. The last thing he saw before drifting off was Dumbledore and Madame Pomfrey talking in hushed voices, their faces concerned. For the first time in his life, Harry fell asleep feeling truly safe. Dawn light filtered through high windows when Harry awoke. For a moment, panic seized him. This wasn't his cupboard, before memory returned. The intruder. The blood. Dumbledore. Hogwarts. He sat up, finding his glasses on the bedside table. "Ah, you're awake." Madame Pomfrey approached, carrying a tray. "How do you feel, Mr. Potter?" Harry considered the question. The buzzing under his skin had settled to a gentle hum, barely noticeable. "Better. Not so, buzzy." She set the tray on his lap, porridge with honey, toast, fruit, and a glass of something orange. "Eat up. You need proper nutrition to support your magic." Harry stared at the food in disbelief. "This is all for me?" Madame Pomfrey's expression softened. "Of course it is. Growing wizards need proper meals." Harry didn't need telling twice. He dug in, trying not to eat too quickly but failing miserably. He'd never been given so much food at once. "The orange juice tastes funny," he said between bites. "That's pumpkin juice, dear. A wizarding favorite." As Harry ate, Dumbledore arrived, now dressed in proper robes of midnight blue. Another man accompanied him, tall, thin, with sallow skin and curtains of black hair. "Good morning, Harry," Dumbledore said cheerfully. I trust you slept well. Harry nodded, mouth full of toast. This is Professor Snape, our potions master. He has particular expertise that may help us understand your new abilities. Harry swallowed his toast and looked at Snape. Immediately, he saw the man's blood, darker than Dumbledore's, moving in tight, controlled patterns. But there was something else, a faint shadow around his left forearm, where the blood moved differently. Snape's black eyes narrowed. So this is Potter's boy. Harry, Dumbledore corrected gently. Yes. Harry, Professor Snape knew your mother when they were students here. You knew my mum? Harry perked up. Something flickered across Snape's face, too quick to identify. Yes. Harry waited for more, but Snape offered nothing else. Professor Snape has studied blood magic as part of his advanced potions research, Dumbledore explained. He may be able to help us understand what's happening with your abilities. I need to examine the boy, Snape said curtly. Certain diagnostic potions may reveal the nature of this development. I've already run standard medical diagnostics, Madame Pomfrey interjected. His magical core shows unusual development in the blood-related aspects. Standard diagnostics are insufficient for blood magic, Snape replied. I'll need specific samples. Harry tensed. Samples? A few drops of blood, Dumbledore explained. Nothing painful. Harry hesitated, then nodded. Okay. Finish your breakfast first, Madame Pomfrey insisted. While Harry ate, Dumbledore conjured chairs for himself and Snape. Harry, I viewed your memory of last night's incident. The man who broke into your home was a Death Eater, a follower of Voldemort, named Augustus Rookwood. He was believed to be in Azkaban, our wizard prison. He escaped. Harry asked. So it seems. Dumbledore stroked his beard. Most concerning. But what interests me most is your response to the threat. You instinctively froze his blood, something that should be impossible for an untrained wizard, especially one so young. I just felt scared, Harry said. And then all buzzy. And then I could feel his blood. The protection your mother left when she died was blood-based, Dumbledore explained. It seems that protection has evolved, giving you abilities related to blood magic. Can all wizards do this? Harry asked. No, Snape answered before Dumbledore could. Blood magic is ancient and largely forgotten. Modern wizards consider it dark arts. Dark? Harry's eyes widened. Does that make me bad? No magic is inherently good or evil, Dumbledore said firmly, giving Snape a sharp look. It's the intent that matters. Your abilities are simply rare and powerful. Harry finished his breakfast, and Madame Pomfrey took the tray away. Snape approached with a small silver knife and a vial. Your hand, Potter. Harry extended his hand nervously. Snape's fingers were cool as he turned Harry's palm upward. With a quick, precise movement, he pricked Harry's finger. 3 drops of blood fell into the vial. That didn't hurt much, Harry said, surprised. Madame Pomfrey bustled over with a small bandage for his finger. Snape swirled the vial, adding a clear liquid from another container. Harry's blood didn't mix with it, instead, it formed complex patterns, like a miniature galaxy. Fascinating, Snape murmured, his scientific curiosity temporarily overriding his apparent dislike of Harry. The blood is responding to magical stimuli in ways I've only read about in ancient texts. What does it mean? Dumbledore asked. It means, Headmaster, that the boy's blood protection has indeed evolved. It's no longer just defensive, it's become an active magical ability. Snape's eyes narrowed. In the old days, blood mages could sense, manipulate, and even control the blood of others. They could read memories through blood, detect lies, track blood relatives across great distances. Is that what I'm doing? Harry asked, half frightened, half fascinated. Your abilities appear to be emerging spontaneously, Snape replied. Typically, such magic requires years of study and specific rituals. When you looked at Professor Snape, Harry, Dumbledore asked gently, what did you see in his blood? Harry hesitated, glancing at Snape. You may speak freely, Dumbledore encouraged. It's darker than yours, Harry said slowly. Moving in tight patterns. And there's a shadow around his left arm, right here. He pointed to his own forearm. The blood moves differently there. Snape's face paled. He unconsciously gripped his left forearm. Dumbledore's eyes widened slightly. You can see the dark mark through his blood? Harry shrugged, not understanding. I just see where the blood looks different. Snape and Dumbledore exchanged significant looks. This complicates matters, Dumbledore said quietly. If he can detect such things, he'll identify any Death Eater on sight, Snape finished. And potentially any lie they tell. Death Eaters are the bad wizards who followed Voldemort? Harry asked. Dumbledore nodded. They marked themselves with his symbol on their left forearms. What you're seeing, Harry, is the magical residue of that mark affecting Professor Snape's blood. But Professor Snape isn't bad, Harry stated with a child's certainty. His blood doesn't feel bad. Just, sad. Snape's head snapped toward Harry, expression unreadable. Indeed, Dumbledore said softly. Professor Snape made mistakes in his youth but has since dedicated himself to fighting against Voldemort. Snape cleared his throat. The boy's abilities will need training and control. In the wrong hands, such knowledge would be dangerous. I agree, said Dumbledore. Which brings us to the question of Harry's care moving forward. He cannot return to the Dursleys, not solely because of their treatment of him, but because the blood protection has changed. It's no longer tied to his residence there. Where will I go? Harry asked, a flicker of anxiety returning. The Dursleys had been awful, but at least they were familiar. For now, you'll stay at Hogwarts while we make arrangements, Dumbledore assured him. I have several trusted friends who might provide a suitable home. What about my mum and dad's friends? Harry asked hopefully. Pain flashed across Dumbledore's face. Many of them were lost in the war, Harry. Though there are a few who remain. A thought struck Harry. Could I use my blood thing to find out who'd be good to live with? Dumbledore and Snape exchanged surprised looks. What do you mean, Harry? Dumbledore asked carefully. Well, I can see stuff in people's blood. Maybe I could see if someone would be nice to me. Or if they're lying about wanting me. An intriguing suggestion, Dumbledore mused. Though I wouldn't want you making such judgments alone. You're still learning about your abilities. I just don't want to live with people who hate me again, Harry said quietly. Something softened in Dumbledore's expression. Of course you don't. And you won't. The boy should begin rudimentary training immediately, Snape interjected. Uncontrolled blood magic could be dangerous, to himself and others. Agreed, said Dumbledore. Though we must proceed with caution. Few texts remain on the subject, and fewer still practitioners. I can research the ancient grimoires in the restricted section, Snape offered. There may be safe exercises to help him gain control. Excellent. Dumbledore turned to Harry. For now, Harry, you'll stay in a special room here in the castle. During term time, Hogwarts houses hundreds of students, but it's summer holiday now, so you'll have plenty of space to yourself. Will I be alone? Harry asked, trying to hide his worry. The castle is never truly empty, Dumbledore assured him. The professors who live here year-round, the house elves who maintain the castle, the ghosts. Harry interrupted, eyes wide. Oh yes. Quite friendly ones, mostly, Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. And I'll arrange for appropriate supervision for you at all times. Supervision that understands the sensitivity of the situation, Snape added pointedly. Of course. Dumbledore nodded. Now, Harry, if Madame Pomfrey agrees you're well enough, perhaps you'd like a tour of the castle? Madame Pomfrey ran a few more diagnostic spells before reluctantly agreeing. But no overexcitement. His magical core is still settling after yesterday's outburst. Dumbledore led Harry from the hospital wing, leaving Snape to study the blood samples further. As they walked through the castle corridors, Harry marveled at moving staircases, talking portraits, and suits of armor that seemed to shift position when he wasn't looking directly at them. "This place is amazing," he breathed. "It is indeed," Dumbledore agreed. "Hogwarts has been a home to young wizards and witches for over 1,000 years. And now, it will be your temporary home. Will I have to go back to the Dursleys ever?" Harry asked, anxiety creeping into his voice. "No, Harry. That chapter of your life is closed." Relief washed over Harry. But as they walked, another worry surfaced. "Professor Dumbledore, why could I see that man's memories last night? Through his blood." Dumbledore slowed his pace, considering his answer carefully. "Blood carries more than just life, Harry. In magical beings, it carries impressions of experiences, emotions, truths. Ancient blood mages could read these impressions, a skill lost to modern wizardry. So I can read people's memories through their blood. It seems you accessed Rookwood's most emotionally charged memories, those related to Voldemort. With training, you might learn to control this ability, to see specific memories or determine truth from falsehood. Like a human lie detector." Dumbledore chuckled. "Something like that, yes. But remember, Harry, such abilities come with great responsibility. Reading someone's blood memories without permission is an invasion of privacy." Harry nodded solemnly. "I understand." They arrived at a portrait of a kindly-looking witch surrounded by children. "This will be your room for now," Dumbledore explained. "Helga," he addressed the portrait, "this is Harry Potter. He'll be staying with us for a while." The painted witch smiled warmly. "Welcome, young one. The password is sanctuary." At the word, the portrait swung forward, revealing a cozy room with a small bed, a desk, bookshelves, and windows overlooking the grounds. "This was once a teacher's private quarters," Dumbledore explained. "I've had the house elves prepare it for you. If you need anything, just call for Pipsy." Pipsy. With a crack, a small creature appeared, about 3 feet tall with large bat-like ears, bulging eyes, and wearing what looked like a tea towel. "Master Harry called for Pipsy," the house elf squeaked. Harry jumped back in surprise. "Pipsy is a house elf," Dumbledore explained, eyes twinkling at Harry's reaction. "She'll help care for you during your stay." "Pipsy is honored to serve the great Harry Potter," the elf exclaimed, bowing so low her nose touched the floor. Nice to meet you, Pipsy," Harry said awkwardly. "But why am I great?" Pipsy's eyes grew even wider. "Harry Potter doesn't know. Harry Potter defeated he who must not be named. Harry Potter saved us all." Harry looked at Dumbledore in confusion. "Ah," Dumbledore sighed. "Another conversation the Dursleys never had with you. You see, Harry, when Voldemort attacked your family that night, something extraordinary happened. His killing curse, the same spell that took your parents, rebounded when he tried to use it on you. It destroyed his physical form, leaving you with only that scar." Harry's hand unconsciously went to his forehead. "I defeated a dark wizard. As a baby? How?" "That remains one of the greatest mysteries of modern magical history," Dumbledore said. "Most believe it was your mother's protection, her sacrifice, that saved you. But I've long suspected there was more to it. And now there's the blood magic," Harry said slowly. "Indeed. Which makes me wonder if perhaps this ability was always part of you, awakened early by last night's danger." Harry sat on the edge of the bed, trying to process everything. "So people know who I am in the wizarding world?" "You're quite famous, I'm afraid," Dumbledore confirmed. Known as the boy who lived. That's weird. Harry frowned. I didn't do anything special. Surviving when no one else ever had is quite special, Harry. Dumbledore smiled kindly. But I understand your discomfort. Fame is rarely comfortable, especially when earned through tragedy. Harry nodded, grateful for the understanding. Then a thought occurred to him. If Voldemort was destroyed, why was that Death Eater still after me? Some believe Voldemort isn't truly gone, Dumbledore admitted. That he's waiting, regaining strength. His most devoted followers might seek you out, either for revenge or because they believe you hold the key to his return. Will he come back? Harry asked, fear creeping into his voice. I cannot say with certainty, Dumbledore replied honestly. But if he does, your new abilities may prove crucial. Blood magic was ancient even in Voldemort's time, he may not know how to counter it. Is that why I need to learn to control it? One of many reasons. Control protects both you and those around you. Dumbledore checked a curious watch with 12 hands and tiny planets instead of numbers. I must attend to some matters now, Harry. Pipsy will show you around the grounds if you wish. We'll begin your training tomorrow, once Professor Snape has completed his research. As Dumbledore turned to leave, Harry called after him. Sir. One more question. Just one. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. Last night, when I slept, I had a dream. Not a nightmare, but strange. I saw a big black dog. It felt important. And I could feel blood, sad blood, hurt blood. Is that normal with my abilities? Dumbledore froze, his expression unreadable. A black dog, you say? Where was this dog? In a small room with bars. Like a cage. He felt familiar somehow. Dumbledore stroked his beard thoughtfully. Blood connections can sometimes reach across distances, Harry, especially with those who share magical bonds. This dream may be significant. Is the dog real? Is he hurt? Perhaps. I'll look into it. Dumbledore's expression had grown serious. If you have more dreams like this, tell me immediately. After Dumbledore left, Harry spent the day exploring the castle with Pipsy. The house elf showed him the great hall with its enchanted ceiling, the library with thousands of magical books, and the kitchens where dozens more house elves prepared elaborate meals. That night, Harry lay in his new bed, more comfortable than any he'd ever known. As he drifted toward sleep, the buzzing under his skin intensified slightly. Not painful, just present. The dream came again, more vivid this time. The black dog in a dark cell, thin and ragged. But now Harry saw more, a number on the wall, 390. Men in dark robes passing by, their presence making the air grow cold. And most importantly, the dog's blood calling to Harry's own, like a distant echo of his own heartbeat. Harry woke with a gasp, the connection lingering. He knew, somehow, that the dog wasn't just a dog. And whoever, whatever, it was, it needed help. You dreamed of him again? Dumbledore asked the next morning over breakfast in Harry's room. Harry nodded, pushing his eggs around his plate. Clearer this time. I saw a number, 390. And I felt like we're connected somehow. Dumbledore's expression grew troubled. Harry, I believe you may be connecting with Sirius Black. Who's Sirius Black? Your godfather. Harry's fork clattered to his plate. My godfather? I have a godfather. Yes. But he's in Azkaban, the wizard prison. He was convicted of betraying your parents to Voldemort. Harry shook his head vehemently. No. That's wrong. His blood doesn't feel like a betrayer. Blood doesn't lie, said a voice from the doorway. Snape stood there, arms folded. Though people frequently do. You've been researching, Dumbledore observed. Snape nodded curtly. Ancient blood mages could detect falsehoods through blood. If Potter is connecting with Black through blood, and sensing innocence, then Sirius may be wrongfully imprisoned, Dumbledore finished, looking troubled. He never received a trial, Severus. I recall, Snape said stiffly. The evidence seemed overwhelming at the time. Evidence can be manipulated, Dumbledore mused. And in the chaos following Voldemort's fall, certain procedures may have been overlooked. Harry looked between them, confused. If he's innocent, can't you get him out? It's not that simple, Harry, Dumbledore sighed. But your blood connection raises questions that must be investigated. For now, though, we must focus on your training. Snape stepped forward, placing several ancient-looking books on the table. I've found reference to beginner exercises for blood mages. Simple techniques to develop control. Excellent, said Dumbledore. Shall we begin? The first exercise involved Harry learning to consciously sense the blood in a person without it happening spontaneously. Snape, looking distinctly uncomfortable, volunteered as the subject. Focus on the center of your magic, Snape instructed. Feel the heat in your core, then direct it toward your senses. Harry closed his eyes, concentrating on the buzzing feeling inside him. Gradually, he managed to intensify it, directing it outward like extending an invisible limb. When he opened his eyes, he could see Snape's blood flowing, the same dark, controlled currents he'd noticed before. I can see it, Harry said excitedly. I made it happen on purpose. Now focus on one specific area, Snape directed. My hand, for instance. Observe the blood flow there without affecting it. Harry narrowed his focus, watching the intricate patterns of blood vessels in Snape's pale hand. The more he concentrated, the more detail he could see, tiny capillaries, the rhythm of pulses driven by Snape's heartbeat. Good, Snape said, sounding surprised at Harry's quick progress. Now release the sense slowly. Like closing your eyes gently, not slamming them shut. Harry gradually relaxed his focus, letting the vision of blood fade until he saw only Snape's ordinary appearance. Well done, Harry, Dumbledore praised. Remarkable control for your first attempt. They practiced this basic exercise several more times, with Harry learning to engage and disengage his blood sense at will. By lunchtime, he could do it with barely a moment's concentration. We should test range, Snape suggested as they ate. How far can he sense blood? An excellent suggestion, Dumbledore agreed. Perhaps in the Great Hall. After lunch, they moved to the massive dining hall. Dumbledore instructed Harry to stand at one end while he and Snape walked to the other. Try to sense our blood from here, Dumbledore called, his voice echoing in the empty hall. Harry focused, pushing his awareness outward. At first, he sensed nothing. Then, as he concentrated harder, faint currents appeared, Dumbledore's bright, complex patterns and Snape's darker, controlled ones. I can see you both, Harry called back. But it's faint. Impressive distance for a beginner, Snape acknowledged grudgingly when they returned. Indeed, Dumbledore agreed. Now, perhaps we should attempt something more challenging. Harry, you mentioned seeing memories in Rookwood's blood. Let's explore that aspect. Harry tensed. I don't want to invade people's privacy. A commendable concern, Dumbledore smiled. But with permission and for training purposes, it's acceptable. I volunteer a simple, harmless memory, what I had for breakfast yesterday. Harry nodded hesitantly. How do I do it? Focus on my blood as you did before, Dumbledore instructed. But this time, look for patterns that seem brighter or more active. Recent memories often have a different quality to them. Harry engaged his blood sense, studying the bright, intricate patterns of Dumbledore's blood. He noticed certain currents seemed to pulse with more energy. I see something different, Harry said. Like, sparkly bits. Good. Focus on those. Imagine reaching out to touch them, not to control, just to observe. Harry concentrated, mentally extending toward the brighter patterns. Suddenly, an image flashed in his mind: Dumbledore sitting at a small table, eating porridge with what looked like lemon drops sprinkled on top. "You had porridge for breakfast," Harry said, surprised. "With sweets on it?" Dumbledore chuckled. "Lemon drops, my favorite." "Correct. Most impressive, Harry." They practiced this technique several more times with simple, innocuous memories. Harry learned to distinguish between recent and older memories based on how bright they appeared in the blood. This ability could prove invaluable, Dumbledore mused. Though it must be used with great responsibility. "And what of his connection to Black?" Snape asked. "That seems to be happening without conscious control." "I believe that's a different aspect of blood magic," Dumbledore replied. "One based on magical bonds, Harry's blood recognizing a connection to Sirius. Can I use it to find out if he's really innocent?" Harry asked eagerly. Dumbledore and Snape exchanged looks. "Azkaban is heavily guarded," Dumbledore said carefully. "And not just by people. Dementors patrol its halls, dark creatures that feed on happiness, leaving only despair." "That's what I felt in my dream," Harry realized. "Cold emptiness when those robed figures passed." "You sense Dementors through the connection?" Snape asked, looking troubled. "That shouldn't be possible at this distance." "Harry's abilities continue to surprise us," Dumbledore said. "I'll make inquiries about Sirius's case. If there's evidence of innocence, we can petition for a review. And if Potter's connection strengthens?" Snape pressed. "He's witnessing Azkaban through Black's experience. That cannot be healthy for a child." "I'm not scared," Harry insisted. "I want to help him. If he's my godfather and he's innocent." "We'll address it, Harry," Dumbledore promised. "But safely and properly." The training continued for several days. Harry learned to sense blood at greater distances, to distinguish between magical and non-magical blood, testing with Filch, the squib caretaker, and to recognize basic emotional states through blood patterns. But each night, the dreams of Sirius grew stronger. Harry saw more details of the cell, felt the cold despair more acutely, and began to glimpse actual memories: a motorcycle flying through the night sky, a baby Harry laughing in Sirius's arms, and most disturbingly, a scene of devastation, a ruined house, James Potter's body on the stairs, and Sirius's howl of grief. 1 week after his arrival at Hogwarts, Harry woke from another dream, tears streaming down his face. This time, he'd felt Sirius's thoughts, his desperate wish for Harry to know the truth, his determination to endure for his godson's sake, and his hatred for someone named Peter, the true betrayer. Harry threw off his covers and ran to the portrait hole. "Sanctuary," he gasped, and the painting swung open. He raced through the dark corridors, instinctively finding his way to Dumbledore's office. A stone gargoyle guarded the entrance. "I need to see Professor Dumbledore," Harry cried. "It's important." The gargoyle remained motionless. "Please. It's about Sirius Black. He's innocent. Peter betrayed my parents." The gargoyle sprang aside. Harry rushed up the spiral staircase to find Dumbledore already standing at the top, dressed in a nightgown and cap. "Harry," Dumbledore said gently. "Another dream?" "More than a dream," Harry gasped. "I know what happened now. Sirius wasn't the secret keeper, Peter Pettigrew was. Peter betrayed them, then framed Sirius. I saw it in his blood memories." Dumbledore guided Harry to a chair. "Tell me everything you saw." Harry described the memories, how his parents had switched secret keepers at the last minute, believing Sirius was too obvious a choice. How Sirius had tracked down Peter after the murders, only for Peter to shout accusations before blowing up the street, cutting off his own finger, and escaping as a rat. A rat? Dumbledore's eyebrows rose sharply. He could turn into one, an animagus, Sirius called it in his thoughts. Dad and Sirius could transform too, Dad was a stag, Sirius is the dog I see. Dumbledore sank into his chair, looking suddenly very old. If this is true, Harry, a grave injustice has been done. It is true, Harry insisted. Blood doesn't lie. You said so yourself. Indeed. Dumbledore steepled his fingers. I'll contact the Ministry immediately. With your abilities as evidence, they won't believe a 4-year-old, Harry said with surprising insight. We need proof Peter's alive. Peter Pettigrew is officially dead, Harry. Killed by Sirius, according to witnesses. Only a finger was found. The finger he cut off himself before transforming. Harry exclaimed. He's hiding somewhere as a rat. Can we find him? If he's alive, and in rat form. Dumbledore mused. It would be nearly impossible to locate one specific rat in all of Britain. Unless. Harry's eyes widened as he accessed another of Sirius's memories. Unless he stayed with a wizarding family. As a pet. Rats don't live very long, but Peter would live a human lifespan even as a rat. A wizarding family with a pet rat. Dumbledore frowned thoughtfully. That narrows it somewhat, but still leaves countless possibilities. Can't we at least get Sirius a trial? Harry pleaded. Let me show what I've seen. Dumbledore sighed. The Ministry is unlikely to accept blood magic as evidence, Harry. It's considered borderline dark arts by modern standards. And they'd question how a 4-year-old could possibly access such magic. Then what can we do? We can't leave him there with those Dementor things. No, we cannot, Dumbledore agreed, determination replacing weariness in his expression. I'll speak with Madame Bones at the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. She's fair-minded and thorough. If I present certain inconsistencies in Sirius's case, she may authorize a review. How long will that take? Harry demanded. Bureaucracy moves slowly, Harry. But I promise to do everything in my power to expedite the process. Harry stood up, suddenly looking far older than his 4 years. If they won't help him, I will. Harry, I can feel him getting weaker, Harry said desperately. The Dementors they're draining him. And now that I know he's innocent, the connection is stronger. I think I could help him directly. What do you mean? Dumbledore asked sharply. Through his blood, Harry explained. I can sense it, even from here. Maybe I can support it somehow. Make it stronger against the Dementors. Dumbledore looked alarmed. Such an attempt could be dangerous, Harry. Blood magic across distances requires immense power and control. I have to try, Harry insisted. He's my godfather. He's suffering because he tried to avenge my parents. Dumbledore studied Harry for a long moment. Very well. But not alone. We'll research safe methods first, and you'll attempt nothing without supervision. Harry reluctantly agreed. For the next few days, while Dumbledore made inquiries at the Ministry, Harry threw himself into studying blood magic with new determination. Snape, surprisingly, proved an invaluable resource, unearthing obscure texts from the restricted section and translating ancient runes. Blood strengthening over distances, Snape muttered, flipping through a crumbling tome. Theoretically possible, but highly advanced. The caster typically needed physical blood samples from the target. I don't need that, Harry said confidently. Our connection is already strong. Arrogance will get you nowhere, Potter, Snape snapped. This magic is beyond most adult wizards. But I have to try. Harry insisted. I felt him getting weaker last night. Snape's scowl deepened, but he turned back to the book. There is one ritual described here, simpler than most. It creates a temporary fortification of the target's blood against external influences. Originally used to protect allies from blood-draining creatures. Like Dementors? Harry asked hopefully. Dementors don't directly affect blood, Snape corrected. They drain happiness, positive emotions. But perhaps strengthening his blood might provide some resistance. I want to try it. The headmaster approved supervised attempts, Harry reminded him. You're supervising, aren't you? Snape's lips thinned. Your father had the same disregard for rules and safety. Did you know him too? Harry asked, momentarily distracted. Unfortunately, Snape muttered. But that's irrelevant. If we attempt this, you will follow my instructions exactly. No improvisations. Blood magic gone wrong can be catastrophic. Harry nodded solemnly. I promise. That evening, in a disused classroom, Snape prepared for the ritual. He drew a circle on the floor with chalk, placing small silver bowls at cardinal points. Into each, he poured different substances, water, salt, ash, and a single drop of Harry's blood. These represent the elements that sustain life, Snape explained. You will sit in the center, focus on your connection to Black, and visualize your strength flowing into his blood. The incantation is Sanguinem Fortifico. Harry sat cross-legged in the circle's center, closing his eyes. He reached for the now familiar connection to Sirius, finding it easily, a tether stretching from his heart across miles of countryside to the North Sea. Following the tether, Harry sensed Sirius, curled in dog form on the cold stone floor, shivering as Dementors passed. His blood moved sluggishly, weakened by years of malnutrition and constant emotional drainage. Sanguinem Fortifico, Harry whispered, pushing his magic along the connection. Nothing happened. Again, Snape instructed. Focus on your own blood first. Feel its strength. Then extend that feeling outward. Harry concentrated on the buzzing energy in his veins, gathering it like water into a cup. Sanguinem Fortifico. This time, he felt something, a surge of magic traveling along the tether. In his mind's eye, he saw his own bright blood energy reaching Sirius, surrounding his weakened currents, reinforcing them. The dog's eyes snapped open in his cell. His head lifted, confusion evident even in canine features. He felt it. Harry gasped. He knows something's happening. Maintain focus, Snape warned. Don't break the connection. Harry poured more energy along the tether, visualizing strength and warmth flowing into Sirius's blood. The dog in his vision slowly transformed back into a gaunt, bearded man who looked around wildly. Who's there? Sirius's cracked voice echoed in Harry's mind. James. It's Harry, Harry whispered, unsure if Sirius could hear him. I'm helping you. Sirius's eyes widened. Harry. Impossible. You're just a child. I know you're innocent, Harry projected the thought with all his might. I'm learning blood magic. I can see the truth. We're going to get you out. Tears streamed down Sirius's hollow face. Harry, how can you possibly? Blood doesn't lie, Harry repeated what he'd been taught. Hang on, Sirius. Stay strong. Dumbledore's working on freeing you. The connection began to strain. Harry felt his energy depleting rapidly. You must stop now, Snape's voice seemed distant. Potter. Enough. But Harry pushed harder, sending one final surge of strength. I'll come back. I promise. The connection snapped. Harry fell backward, exhaustion washing over him. Snape caught him before his head hit the stone floor. Foolish boy. Snape hissed. I told you to stop. But there was more concern than anger in his voice. He helped Harry sit up, pressing a chocolate frog into his hand. Eat. It helps restore energy after magical depletion. Harry bit into the chocolate, feeling warmth spread through him. It worked, he said weakly. I talked to him. He heard me. Snape's expression was unreadable. That should have been impossible. Mental communication wasn't part of the ritual. But it happened, Harry insisted. And I made his blood stronger. I could feel it. Perhaps, Snape conceded reluctantly. But you've exhausted yourself. No more attempts for at least 3 days. But, no arguments. Blood magic draws from your own life force, Potter. Push too far, and you risk permanent damage. Harry wanted to protest but felt too drained. He nodded weakly. Poppy will have my head, Snape muttered, helping Harry to his feet. Come. Hospital wing. As Snape had predicted, Madame Pomfrey was furious. She confined Harry to bed for 2 days, muttering about irresponsible experimentation and growing boys needing rest, not magical depletion. Dumbledore visited the next morning, his expression grave. Harry, what you attempted was extremely dangerous, he said without preamble. Blood magic across such distances could have severely harmed you. But it worked, Harry countered. I spoke to Sirius. I strengthened his blood against the Dementors. So Professor Snape reported, Dumbledore sighed. Your abilities continue to defy conventional understanding of blood magic. Does that mean I can do it again? Harry asked hopefully. Absolutely not without proper supervision and preparation, Dumbledore said firmly. However, I have good news. Madame Bones has agreed to review Sirius's case. Harry sat up eagerly. Really? When? The wheels of bureaucracy turn slowly, but I've impressed upon her the urgency of the situation. She'll interview Sirius next week. A whole week? But the Dementors will have less effect on him now, thanks to your strengthening ritual, Dumbledore assured him. Which, I must emphasize again, you should not repeat without supervision. Harry slumped back against his pillows. Fine. But can we at least look for Peter Pettigrew? If we found him, it would prove Sirius's innocence immediately. An excellent suggestion, Dumbledore agreed. But finding one specific rat among millions in Britain, we can narrow it down, Harry interrupted. He'd stay with wizards, right? As a pet. And he'd need to stay informed about what's happening in the wizarding world. So he'd be with a wizarding family that's connected to news and stuff. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. Logical deduction, Harry. That would indeed narrow our search considerably. And Harry hesitated, then plunged ahead. I think I might be able to track him through blood. How? You've never met Peter Pettigrew. But Sirius has. I've seen Peter in Sirius's blood memories. Maybe I can use that connection to find him. Dumbledore stroked his beard thoughtfully. A novel application of blood magic. Tracking through second-hand blood memories. I'm not sure it's ever been attempted. Can we try? Harry pleaded. When you're fully recovered, Dumbledore promised. But for now, rest. Your magical core needs time to replenish. Harry reluctantly agreed. For the next 2 days, he rested, ate the strengthening foods Madame Pomfrey prescribed, and tried not to think about Sirius alone in his cell. On the 3rd day, Dumbledore arrived with news. Madame Bones has expedited her review, he announced. She'll interview Sirius tomorrow under Veritaserum, Truth Potion, he added, seeing Harry's confusion. That's great. Harry exclaimed. Then they'll know he's innocent. If he is indeed innocent, yes, Dumbledore nodded. But we should still pursue our search for Peter Pettigrew. If he's alive, that's additional evidence of Sirius's innocence. Can we try the blood tracking now? Harry asked eagerly. I'm feeling much better. Madame Pomfrey ran a few diagnostic spells before reluctantly declaring Harry's magical core sufficiently recovered. That afternoon, they gathered in Dumbledore's office, Harry, Dumbledore, and Snape. Another chalk circle was drawn on the floor, but this time with different symbols around its perimeter. This is a variation of a traditional blood tracking ritual, Snape explained. Normally, it requires a blood sample from the target or a close relative. We're attempting to adapt it to work through your connection to Black and his memories of Pettigrew. The theory, Dumbledore added, is that Sirius's blood contains impressions of Peter, impressions you've already accessed. We hope to use those impressions to locate the original source. Harry sat in the circle, closing his eyes. He reached for his connection to Sirius, now stronger after the strengthening ritual. Sirius, he thought along the connection. I need to see your memories of Peter again. Whether Sirius heard him or not, memories began to flow, Peter as a younger man, laughing with James and Sirius, Peter transforming into a rat with a distinctive feature, a toe missing from his front paw, Peter in the street, screaming accusations before causing the explosion. Harry focused on the transformation, on the rat's appearance. Sanguinem investigo, he whispered, the incantation Snape had taught him. Magic surged through the connection, but instead of flowing toward Sirius, it branched off in a different direction, southwest from Hogwarts. Harry followed the new tether with his mind, flying over landscapes, towns, fields. The connection led to a ramshackle but cozy-looking house outside a small village. Inside, a family with flaming red hair moved about their daily routines. And there, on the shoulder of a young boy, sat a fat grey rat. I found him, Harry gasped, opening his eyes. He's with a wizard family. They all have red hair. The rat's missing a toe on his front paw. Dumbledore and Snape exchanged startled looks. The Weasleys, Dumbledore said. Arthur works at the Ministry, perfect for keeping informed about wizarding affairs. How long has the family had this rat? Snape asked. I'll make inquiries, Dumbledore promised. If they've had it longer than an ordinary rat's lifespan. We'll have proof, Harry finished. I must move carefully, Dumbledore cautioned. If Pettigrew realizes we suspect him, he might flee. Then hurry, Harry urged. The sooner Sirius is free, the better. The next day passed in anxious waiting. Harry practiced his blood magic exercises to stay calm, focusing on maintaining his strengthening connection to Sirius without depleting himself. That evening, Dumbledore returned, his face alight with triumph. Madame Bones interviewed Sirius today, he announced. Under Veritaserum, he told the same story you saw in his blood memories. She was troubled enough to authorize further investigation. And Peter? Harry asked eagerly. I visited the Weasleys under the pretext of discussing their oldest son's exceptional performance at Hogwarts. They've had the rat, Scabbers, they call him, for 3 years. Arthur's son Percy found him in their garden. Most telling of all, the rat is indeed missing a toe on his front paw. That's him. Harry exclaimed. Did you take him? Not yet. We need to plan the capture carefully. If he escapes, we may never find him again. When, then? Harry pressed. Tomorrow, Dumbledore decided. I've arranged for Aurors, wizard law enforcement, to accompany us, along with Madame Bones herself. Can I come? Harry asked immediately. Dumbledore hesitated. It could be dangerous if Pettigrew realizes he's cornered. I need to be there, Harry insisted. I can help. If he tries to run, I might be able to slow his blood. Just enough to stop him. That would be an extreme measure, Harry, Dumbledore cautioned. For the man who betrayed my parents and framed my godfather. Harry's voice hardened. I think it's justified. Dumbledore and Snape exchanged concerned glances at the edge in the 4-year-old's voice. Very well, Dumbledore finally agreed. But you'll stay back with Professor Snape and only intervene if absolutely necessary. The next morning, they traveled by flow, a dizzying experience involving green flames and fireplaces, to the Ministry of Magic. There, they met Madame Bones, a square-jawed witch with a monocle, and 2 Aurors. This is highly irregular, Albus, Madame Bones said, eyeing Harry curiously. Bringing a child on an operation. Harry has certain abilities that may prove useful if Pettigrew attempts to flee, Dumbledore explained vaguely. Madam Bones raised an eyebrow but didn't press the issue. Black's testimony under Veritaserum was compelling. If Pettigrew is indeed alive. We'll soon find out, Dumbledore said grimly. They traveled by apparition to a location near the Weasleys' home. Harry, carried by Snape during the uncomfortable squeezing journey, immediately sensed the rat's presence. He's inside, Harry whispered. I can feel him. His blood is scared. Nervous. Like he's always watching for danger. The adults stared at him in amazement. Blood sensing, Snape explained briefly. A rare talent. Madam Bones looked startled but refocused quickly. Shacklebolt, Dawlish, standard containment procedure. No one enters or leaves until we've secured our target. The Aurors moved into position around the house. Dumbledore approached the front door and knocked. A plump, friendly-looking woman with flaming red hair opened it. Professor Dumbledore. What a lovely surprise. Arthur mentioned you'd stopped by yesterday. Do come in. Thank you, Molly, Dumbledore smiled. I'm afraid this isn't a purely social call. May we come in? I should introduce Madame Amelia Bones, head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. Molly Weasley's smile faltered. Law enforcement? Has something happened? We need to examine your son's pet rat, Madame Bones said directly. Scabbers? Whatever for. We have reason to believe it may not be a rat at all, Dumbledore explained gently. But an animagus, a wizard who can transform into an animal. Molly's hand flew to her mouth. That's impossible. Percy's had him for years. Which is precisely what concerns us, Madame Bones said. Common rats don't live that long. Molly ushered them inside, clearly flustered. The cozy home buzzed with activity. Several red-headed children of various ages moved about, eyeing the visitors curiously. Percy, dear, Molly called. Would you bring Scabbers down, please? Professor Dumbledore wants to see him. A thin boy with horn-rimmed glasses appeared on the stairs. Scabbers? Why? Just bring him down, please, Molly insisted. As Percy turned to retrieve his pet, Harry felt a spike of panic from upstairs. He knows, Harry whispered urgently to Snape. He heard us. He's going to run. Snape relayed this to Dumbledore, who quickly cast a spell. Hominum revelio animagus. A flash of light spread through the house. From upstairs came a squeal of terror. Upstairs. Now. Dumbledore commanded. The Aurors raced up the steps. Sounds of struggle ensued, furniture crashing, a boy's confused shout, and a high-pitched squealing. He's trying to escape through a window. Harry cried, sensing the rat's movements through blood. Without thinking, he extended his power, grasping the fleeing animal's blood and slowing it, not freezing it completely, just making it sluggish, heavy. A triumphant shout came from above. Moments later, the Aurors descended, a stunned rat floating in a magical containment bubble between them. Got him trying to squeeze through a crack in the bedroom window, the taller Auror reported. Suddenly slowed down, like he got hit with an impediment jinx. Lucky for us. Harry caught Snape's eye, who gave him the barest nod of acknowledgement. Madame Bones stepped forward, wand raised. Stand back, everyone. She cast a complicated spell at the floating rat. Blue-white light surrounded the rodent. It began to grow, twist, and contort. The Weasleys gasped collectively as the rat transformed into a short, balding man with pointed features and watery eyes. Peter Pettigrew, Dumbledore said quietly. Alive and well, despite reports of your death. The Weasleys stared in horror. That thing has been sleeping in Percy's bed for 3 years. Molly Weasley looked ready to faint. Pettigrew's eyes darted around frantically. When they landed on Harry, they widened in terror. Harry, little Harry, how wonderful to see you. He simpered. Rage boiled in Harry's blood. This was the man who betrayed his parents. Who framed Sirius. Who had been living comfortably while his godfather suffered in Azkaban. He felt his blood magic surging, responding to his anger. Pettigrew suddenly clutched at his chest, gasping. "Harry," Dumbledore's gentle voice broke through his fury. "That's enough." Harry reluctantly released his hold on Pettigrew's blood. The man collapsed to his knees, breathing heavily. "Peter Pettigrew, you are under arrest for suspicion of conspiracy in the murders of James and Lily Potter, framing Sirius Black, and 13 counts of murder of Muggles," Madam Bones announced formally. "You will be taken to the Ministry for questioning under Veritaserum." As the Aurors secured Pettigrew with magical restraints, Harry felt a wave of satisfaction. Justice for his parents. Freedom for his godfather. "How soon will Sirius be released?" he asked Dumbledore. "After Pettigrew's interrogation, if everything confirms what we suspect, immediately," Dumbledore promised. "Perhaps as early as tonight." Harry closed his eyes, reaching through his blood connection to Sirius. "We got him," he projected the thought. "Peter's captured. You're going to be free soon." He felt Sirius's shock, disbelief, then overwhelming joy ripple back through the connection. For the first time since Harry had sensed him, Sirius's blood flowed with hope. That night, Harry waited anxiously in his room at Hogwarts. Dumbledore had gone to Azkaban personally to oversee Sirius's release after Pettigrew's confession under Veritaserum had confirmed everything. Shortly before midnight, a knock came at his portrait hole. Harry scrambled out of bed, calling the password. Dumbledore entered, followed by a gaunt, haggard man with long matted hair and sunken eyes. Despite his skeletal appearance, Sirius Black's face lit up at the sight of Harry. "Harry," he whispered hoarsely. "Is it really you?" Harry didn't need his blood sense to recognize his godfather. The connection between them hummed with recognition. "Sirius," he said simply, and launched himself into the man's arms. Sirius caught him, holding him tightly despite his weakened state. "You did this," he murmured into Harry's hair. "Somehow, with blood magic of all things, you did what no one else could." "Blood doesn't lie," Harry said, repeating what had become his mantra. "And your blood told me you were innocent." Sirius looked at Dumbledore over Harry's head. "How is this possible? Blood magic in a 4-year-old? "We're still discovering the full extent of Harry's abilities," Dumbledore replied. "It seems Lily's protection has evolved in unexpected ways." "She was always extraordinary," Sirius said softly. "But this." He pulled back to look at Harry. "What you did, reaching me in Azkaban, strengthening my blood against the Dementors, finding Peter, it should be impossible." Harry shrugged. "It didn't feel impossible. It just felt right." Sirius laughed, a rusty sound as if long unused. "James's son indeed, doing the impossible as if it's nothing special." Madame Pomfrey entered with potions for Sirius. "You need rest and nutrition before anything else, Mr. Black. Azkaban takes a terrible toll on the body." "I know," Sirius grimaced. "Believe me, I know." "Sirius will stay in the hospital wing tonight," Dumbledore told Harry. "Tomorrow, we'll discuss arrangements for both of you." "Both of us?" Harry perked up. "Sirius is your legal guardian, Harry. Once he's recovered enough, there's no reason you shouldn't live together." Harry beamed. A home with his godfather. No more Dursleys. No more cupboard under the stairs. "But first," Dumbledore continued, "we must ensure you both are safe. Pettigrew's capture will cause ripples in certain circles. And your blood magic abilities must be properly trained and protected." "I'll protect him," Sirius vowed, his arm tightening around Harry. "No one will harm my godson." "And I'll protect you," Harry countered, placing his small hand over Sirius's heart. "I can make your blood strong against anything." Sirius looked down at Harry with a mixture of wonder and concern. "James and Lily would be proud of you," he said softly. "But also worried." Blood magic is powerful, Harry. It needs to be used wisely. I know, Harry nodded solemnly. Professor Dumbledore and Professor Snape have been teaching me control. Snape? Sirius looked startled. Severus Snape is teaching you? He knows a lot about blood magic, Harry explained. And he's been, well, not nice exactly. But helpful. Sirius looked like he wanted to say more but thought better of it. We'll have plenty of time to talk about all of this, he said instead. Years, in fact. Years, Harry repeated, savoring the word. A future with family who wanted him. Who loved him. As Harry reluctantly said goodnight, allowing Madame Pomfrey to lead Sirius to the hospital wing, he felt something he'd never experienced before, a sense of belonging. His blood had found its match in Sirius, not a perfect match like his parents would have been, but family nonetheless. Blood didn't lie. And Harry's blood told him he was finally home. Chapter 2, The Control. 4 years flew by like someone hit fast forward on Harry's life. One day he was a scared 4-year-old discovering his weird blood powers, and then, bam. Suddenly he was 8, living in a cozy cottage on the outskirts of a village called Hogsmeade with his godfather Sirius and their rotating cast of magical housemates. Today it was Remus Lupin's turn to stay with them. Harry liked when Remus visited. He brought chocolate and told the least exaggerated stories about Harry's parents. Focus, Harry, Remus said, his voice gentle but firm. Try again. Harry sighed dramatically but closed his eyes. The buzzing under his skin, once so foreign and scary, now felt as natural as breathing. He directed it outward, reaching for Remus's blood. Got it, Harry said, eyes still closed. Your blood's moving faster than usual today. Full moon's in 3 days, Remus replied. My body's already preparing. Harry nodded. Remus's werewolf condition gave his blood a distinctive rhythm, like normal wizard blood but with undertones of something wild and ancient that grew stronger near the full moon. Harry had learned to track lunar cycles just by monitoring the changes in Remus's blood. Now, what am I feeling? Remus asked. Harry pushed deeper, reading the emotional imprints in Remus's blood. You're worried about something. And tired. And. Harry concentrated harder. You're hiding something from me. Remus's eyebrows shot up. That's new. You couldn't read concealed emotions last week. Harry grinned, opening his eyes. Been practicing. So what are you hiding? Your birthday present, obviously. Remus recovered smoothly, but his blood pulsed with a tiny tell Harry recognized as a half-truth. Liar, Harry said cheerfully. Well, not completely. But there's something else too. Remus sighed. Your abilities are developing faster than we anticipated. Dumbledore wanted to wait until you were older to tell you, but... He hesitated. Tell me what? Harry asked, instantly alert. Is something wrong with Sirius? No, nothing like that, Remus assured him quickly. It's about your training. Dumbledore's found someone with specialized knowledge of blood magic. Someone who might help you develop your abilities further. Really? Harry perked up. Who? When do I meet them? His name is Claudius Blackthornne. And apparently, you'll meet him tonight. That's what I was hiding. He contacted Dumbledore yesterday, requesting a meeting with you. Quite insistent about it too. Blackthornne, Harry repeated, testing the name. Doesn't sound familiar. Did he know my parents? No. He's been abroad for many years. Dumbledore says he's one of the few living wizards with practical knowledge of blood magic. Harry frowned. Something felt off. If he's such an expert, why haven't we heard of him before? I've been doing this blood magic stuff for 4 years now. That's a fair question, Remus admitted. From what I understand, he only recently learned about your abilities and reached out to Dumbledore. How'd he find out about me? Another excellent question, Remus said, looking troubled. One I asked Dumbledore myself. He was rather vague about it. Harry thought about this. Over the years, his training had involved several teachers, Professor Snape for the theoretical aspects, Dumbledore for ethical guidance, Sirius for practical applications, once he'd recovered from Azkaban, and occasionally specialists like the healer who taught him to sense diseases in blood. But they'd always been thoroughly vetted, their backgrounds checked multiple times. Sirius won't like some stranger just showing up, Harry said finally. Remus snorted. That's putting it mildly. He and Dumbledore had quite the row about it yesterday. But in the end, Sirius agreed to at least meet the man. With certain precautions. Before Harry could ask what precautions, the front door banged open, and Sirius's voice called out, "We're home. And we come bearing ice cream." Harry bounced up and raced to the kitchen where Sirius was unpacking groceries with casual flicks of his wand. At 32, Sirius Black looked nothing like the hollow-eyed skeleton Harry had first met. Regular meals, freedom, and 4 years of happiness had transformed him. His black hair fell in casual waves to his shoulders, his gray eyes sparkled with mischief, and only occasionally did shadows from Azkaban darken his expression. "There's my blood mage." Sirius grinned, ruffling Harry's perpetually messy hair. "How's training with Professor Mooney?" "Learning all sorts of boring theory, I expect." "Actually, we were practicing emotion reading," Harry said, sliding onto a kitchen stool. "And Remus told me about the Blackthornne guy coming tonight." Sirius shot Remus an accusing look. "Thanks for that, Mooney. I was planning to break it gently." "He read it in my blood," Remus shrugged. "He's getting better at detecting concealed emotions." "Great," Sirius sighed, but there was pride behind his exasperation. "Just what we need, a kid who can tell when we're planning surprise parties." "So what are these precautions Remus mentioned?" Harry asked, digging into the bowl of ice cream Sirius had placed before him. Sirius's expression grew serious. "Blackthornne will only meet you under specific conditions. He'll come here, where our wards are strongest. Dumbledore will be present. And both Remus and I will be armed and ready at all times." "You think he might be dangerous?" Harry asked. "I think," Sirius said carefully, "that anyone showing sudden interest in an 8-year-old with rare magical abilities deserves healthy suspicion." Harry nodded, understanding. His godfather's protective instincts had been honed to razor sharpness after the Pettigrew incident. The last 4 years hadn't been entirely peaceful. There had been 2 attempted kidnappings by remaining Death Eaters, a bizarre incident with a cursed package, and constant media attention from the wizarding press. Through it all, Sirius had proven himself not just a fun-loving godfather but a fierce protector. "What do we know about him?" Harry asked. "Not much," Sirius admitted. "He's British but left during the First War against Voldemort. Traveled extensively through Eastern Europe, Asia, and parts of Africa. Supposedly studying ancient magical practices, blood magic among them. Did Dumbledore check him out?" "As much as possible. No known Death Eater connections. No criminal record. But his movements over the last 20 years are patchy. Lots of gaps." Harry frowned. "And he specifically asked for me? Not just general interest in blood magic." "That's what concerns me," Sirius said grimly. "He contacted Dumbledore directly, saying he'd sensed an awakening of blood magic in Britain. Said he knew it was centered around you." "How could he sense that from far away?" "That's the million-galleon question," Sirius sighed. "Dumbledore thinks advanced blood mages might be able to sense others of their kind, especially when powerful blood magic is performed." Harry thought about this. "Like when I found Pettigrew through your blood memories?" "Exactly. That kind of magic might have sent out ripples that someone attuned to blood magic could detect." Harry finished his ice cream thoughtfully. "Well, I guess we'll find out tonight what he wants." By evening, their cottage hummed with protective enchantments. Dumbledore arrived early, adding his own considerable magical protections to the existing wards. Harry watched in fascination as the old wizard's blood, still the most complex and vibrant he'd ever seen, pulsed with power as he wove spell after spell around their home. "There," Dumbledore said finally, tucking his wand away. "No one with ill intent toward any occupant can cross these boundaries now." "I'm still not comfortable with this, Albus," Sirius said, checking his wand for the 5th time. "We know almost nothing about this man." "Which is precisely why this meeting is necessary," Dumbledore replied calmly. "If Claudius Blackthorne has genuine knowledge of blood magic that could help Harry, we would be remiss to ignore the opportunity. And if his intentions are less than pure." His eyes hardened. "Better to discover that in a controlled environment of our choosing." Harry sat quietly in an armchair, listening. Over the years, he'd learned that adults sometimes forgot he was there when they got caught up in their discussions. It was a useful skill for gathering information. "What I don't understand," Remus said, pacing by the fireplace, "is why now? Harry's had these abilities for 4 years. Perhaps they only recently grew strong enough to detect," Dumbledore mused. "Or perhaps Blackthorne only recently returned to a position where he could sense such magic. Or perhaps he's been biding his time," Sirius muttered darkly. Waiting for the right moment to, a chime rang through the cottage, someone approaching the outer wards. "He's here," Dumbledore said unnecessarily. "Remember, let me do the initial introductions. Harry, stay beside Sirius until I indicate otherwise." Harry nodded, moving to stand by his godfather. Sirius's hand settled protectively on his shoulder. The chime sounded again, closer. The visitor had passed the outer ward successfully, meaning he harbored no immediate ill intent. Still, Harry noticed Remus shift to cover the back exit, wand held casually but ready. A knock at the door. Dumbledore answered it. "Claudius," he said pleasantly. "Thank you for agreeing to our conditions." "Albus. It's been too long." The voice was deep and smooth with a hint of an accent Harry couldn't place. As Dumbledore stepped aside, Harry got his first look at Claudius Blackthorne. The man was tall and lean, perhaps in his 60s but with the vigorous appearance of a much younger wizard. His hair was silver white, cut short and neat. He wore elegant but understated robes of midnight blue. His eyes, when they found Harry, were a startling amber color. But it was his blood that caught Harry's attention. It moved differently than any he'd ever seen, not brighter or darker, but more deliberate. Each pulse, each flow seemed precisely controlled, as if Blackthorne consciously directed every drop through his veins. "You must be Harry Potter," Blackthorne said, inclining his head slightly. "I've traveled a very long way to meet you." Harry instinctively reached out with his blood sense, trying to read the man's emotions or intentions. To his shock, he encountered a barrier, not solid, but like trying to see through frosted glass. Blackthorne's blood revealed only what he wanted it to reveal. "You're blocking me," Harry blurted out, surprised. Blackthorne's lips curved in a slight smile. "And you're trying to read me without permission. We have much to teach each other, it seems." "Harry," Sirius said warningly, his grip tightening on Harry's shoulder. "It's quite all right," Blackthorne said smoothly. "I expected nothing less from a natural blood mage. Curiosity is essential to mastery." He looked at Sirius. "You must be the godfather. Sirius Black. Your escape from Azkaban with Harry's help is already becoming legend in certain circles." "Not an escape," Sirius corrected tersely. "An exoneration." "Of course," Blackthorne inclined his head. "A significant distinction. And you," he turned to Remus, "would be Remus Lupin. The werewolf." He said it without judgment, merely stating a fact. Remus stiffened. "How did you? Your blood speaks volumes," Blackthorne said. "Even with my limited sensing from this distance, the lunar rhythms are unmistakable." "Perhaps," Dumbledore interjected smoothly, "we should all sit down." "Tea, Claudius?" "Thank you, but no," Blackthorne replied. I prefer clarity of mind and body when discussing matters of blood magic. They moved to the sitting area, Blackthorne taking an armchair while Harry sat on the sofa between Sirius and Remus. Dumbledore remained standing, positioning himself subtly between Blackthorne and the others. I understand you have questions, Blackthorne began. About my interest in young Mr. Potter and my knowledge of blood magic. I shall be direct, I am one of perhaps 5 living wizards who have studied the ancient art to mastery level. When I sensed the awakening of such magic in Britain, raw, untrained, but extraordinarily powerful, I knew I had to investigate. How exactly did you sense Harry's magic? Sirius asked skeptically. Blood calls to blood, Blackthorne replied. Those of us who have immersed ourselves in its study develop a sensitivity to its use. For years ago, I felt a sudden surge while in Tibet. Too distant to locate precisely, but unmistakable in its nature. Then, last month, another surge, when young Harry tracked the rat animagus through blood memory, I presume. Harry exchanged surprised looks with Sirius. They hadn't published those details about Pettigrew's capture. How did you know that? Harry asked. The magical signature was distinctive, Blackthorne explained. Blood memory tracking has a particular resonance. Few could recognize it, but I've performed similar workings myself. And what exactly do you want with Harry? Sirius demanded. To teach him, of course, Blackthorne said, as if it were obvious. His gifts are extraordinary, especially in one so young. But they're raw, unrefined. Without proper guidance, he risks misusing them or, worse, harming himself. He has guidance, Sirius bristled. Dumbledore, myself, other qualified wizards, with respect, Blackthorne interrupted gently, none of you are blood mages. You're teaching theory from ancient books and improvising the rest. Impressive results, certainly, but ultimately limited by your own lack of practical experience. An uncomfortable silence followed. Harry knew Blackthorne had struck a nerve. Despite their best efforts, his mentors had often reached the limits of their knowledge, forced to let Harry experiment carefully to discover what worked. What could you teach me that they couldn't? Harry asked directly. Blackthorne's amber eyes fixed on him. Control. Precision. The subtleties that separate a practitioner from a master. For instance, he raised his hand slightly. May I demonstrate? Sirius tensed, but Dumbledore nodded. A small demonstration only, Claudius. Of course. Blackthorne closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, they had shifted from amber to blood red. Harry gasped as he sensed what was happening. Blackthorne was altering his own blood composition, changing its properties in real time. Currently, I've increased my oxygen-carrying capacity threefold, Blackthorne explained calmly. I could climb a mountain without breathing heavily. Now, his skin took on a silvery sheen. I've infused my blood with traces of silver, rendering myself immune to most poisons. His eyes shifted back to amber, his skin returning to normal. These are basic applications. With training, Harry could learn far more sophisticated techniques, sensing blood from miles away, reading specific memories rather than emotional impressions, even temporarily borrowing abilities from other magical beings through blood resonance. Borrowing abilities? Harry couldn't help but sound interested. Harry, Sirius warned. It's a natural question, Blackthorne said. Yes, Mr. Potter. Through proper technique, a blood mage can temporarily align their blood with another magical being's, borrowing certain traits. A partial werewolf strength without the transformation, for instance, or Avila's resistance to fire. That sounds incredible, Harry admitted. It is, Blackthorne nodded. And dangerous in untrained hands. Which is why proper mentorship is essential. And you're offering this mentorship out of the goodness of your heart? Remus asked skeptically. Blackthorne smiled slightly. Not entirely. I have my own motivations. Blood magic is dying out, feared, misunderstood, relegated to dark arts by wizards who understand nothing of its true nature. Finding a natural talent like Harry's is, historically significant. I would consider it an honor to guide such a gift to fruition. And what would this mentorship entail? Dumbledore asked, speaking for the first time since the demonstration. Ideally, the boy would come study with me, Blackthornne began. Absolutely not, Sirius cut in immediately. Blackthornne raised a placating hand. As I expected. In that case, I propose regular sessions, perhaps twice weekly to start. Basic theory, controlled practical exercises, building toward more advanced techniques as he progresses. Here. Under supervision. Sirius pressed. For the initial period, yes, Blackthornne conceded. Once trust is established, perhaps more flexibility would be beneficial. And how long would this training last? Remus asked. Blood magic is a lifetime study, Blackthornne replied. But the fundamental controls could be mastered in a year or two with Harry's natural aptitude. After that, more advanced applications would depend on his interests and abilities. Harry found himself torn. The man clearly knew things about blood magic that none of his current mentors did. The demonstration had shown techniques Harry had never even imagined possible. But something felt off, not threatening exactly, but not entirely transparent either. Could you teach me to heal with blood magic? Harry asked suddenly. That's what I'm most interested in. Blackthornne looked surprised by the question. Healing. An unusual focus for one so young. I've been practicing with small injuries, Harry explained. Cuts and bruises. But I want to learn more advanced healing, for diseases, serious injuries, even. He glanced at Remus. Even things like lycanthropy. A shadow crossed Blackthorn's face so quickly Harry almost missed it. Healing is, one application of blood magic. Not its primary purpose historically, but possible. Though lycanthropy may be beyond even the most advanced techniques. But you could teach me the healing aspects? Harry pressed. Certainly, as part of a comprehensive education, Blackthornne said smoothly. Though I would recommend mastering the fundamentals before specializing. Dumbledore was watching this exchange with keen interest. Harry has always shown particular aptitude for the protective and healing aspects of blood magic, he noted. His first instinct was to strengthen his godfather's blood against Dementors, not to control or manipulate others despite having demonstrated that ability. Fascinating, Blackthornne murmured. Natural inclinations within the discipline are rare. He focused on Harry again. I would be pleased to include healing techniques in your training, Mr. Potter, though as I said, fundamentals must come first. Harry looked to Sirius, silently asking his opinion. Sirius's expression was troubled, but he gave a slight nod, deferring to Harry's judgment. I'd like to learn, Harry said finally. But I want Sirius or Remus or Professor Dumbledore present for all lessons. And I want to focus on healing and protection, not just control. Reasonable conditions, Blackthornne nodded. Though I would add one of my own, what I teach you remains between us. Blood magic has been persecuted nearly to extinction because of misunderstanding. Its secrets should not be shared casually. Harry will not be asked to keep secrets from his guardians, Sirius said firmly. Of course not, Blackthornne amended. I meant beyond your immediate circle. The wider wizarding world has prejudices against blood magic that are difficult to overcome. After more discussion of logistics and limitations, they agreed that Blackthornne would begin Harry's training the following week, 2 sessions weekly, always supervised, focusing initially on enhanced control techniques. As Blackthornne prepared to leave, he paused at the door. One more demonstration, perhaps. A small gift to show my good faith. He approached Harry, stopping at a respectful distance. May I? He asked, extending his hand. After glancing at Dumbledore, who nodded slightly, Harry took Blackthorn's hand. Immediately, he felt a warm current flow between them, not intrusive, just connecting. Blood to blood, magic to magic, Blackthorne murmured. I offer clarity of sight. Heat flashed behind Harry's eyes. When it faded, he gasped. The world looked different, sharper, more detailed. And when he glanced at Sirius, he could see his godfather's blood with unprecedented clarity, not just the flow and emotion, but the very composition, the magic interwoven with each cell. What did you do? Harry asked, amazed. Enhanced your blood sight, Blackthorne explained. A temporary gift that will fade by morning. But a glimpse of what proper training can achieve. After Blackthorne left, Harry spent hours exploring his enhanced vision, seeing details in everyone's blood he'd never noticed before. Dumbledore's carried traces of phoenix magic, probably from his long association with Fawkes. Remus's showed the complex interplay between human and wolf aspects, strongest in his bone marrow where blood cells formed. Sirius's still bore faint scars from the Dementors, healing but not yet gone. Well? Sirius asked later as he tucked Harry into bed. What do you think of our mysterious blood mage? Harry considered carefully. He knows a lot. More than anyone we've met. But? Sirius prompted. He's not telling us everything, Harry said slowly. When I asked about healing, something changed in his blood. Just for a second. Like he was disappointed. Sirius nodded thoughtfully. Dumbledore noticed something similar. Said Blackthorne seemed very interested in your ability to control others' blood but glossed over your healing talents. Should we still let him teach me? Carefully, Sirius decided. With constant supervision. And Harry? Yeah. If you ever sense anything wrong, anything at all, you tell me immediately. Promise? Promise, Harry agreed solemnly. Sirius ruffled his hair. Get some sleep, blood mage. Something tells me these lessons are going to be challenging. The first few sessions with Blackthorne proved both fascinating and exhausting. Unlike Harry's previous mentors who'd pieced together training from fragmented ancient texts, Blackthorne taught with the confidence of someone who performed each technique personally. They began with what Blackthorne called blood listening, the ability to focus on specific aspects of blood rather than sensing it as a whole. Blood carries stories, Blackthorne explained during their third session. Not just emotions or surface memories, but histories, genetic lineage, magical heritage, life experiences encoded in the very cells. Most blood mages barely scratch the surface, sensing only what screams loudest. True mastery lies in hearing the whispers. They sat cross-legged on cushions in the cottage's warded basement, Sirius watching vigilantly from the corner. Blackthorne had brought a small silver bowl filled with a clear liquid. What is that? Harry asked. Water from a sacred spring in Tibet, Blackthorne replied. Magically neutral but receptive to imprinting. Watch. He pricked his finger, allowing a single drop of blood to fall into the water. Instead of diffusing, it held its shape, floating in the center. Now you, Blackthorne instructed. Harry pricked his own finger, letting a drop fall beside Blackthorne's. The two drops orbited each other like tiny planets. Focus on my blood, Blackthorne said. Not as a whole, but layer by layer. Start with the physical components, plasma, cells, proteins. Harry concentrated, peeling back his perception like pages in a book. He'd never tried to look at blood with this level of detail before. I see, tiny disc-shaped things floating in clear liquid, Harry said hesitantly. Red blood cells, Blackthorne nodded. Good. Now look deeper, at the magical essence infusing them. Harry focused harder. Beneath the physical components, he detected strands of magic woven through the cells, complex, ancient patterns unlike anything he'd seen before. It's like a tapestry, Harry said, struggling to describe it. All these different threads of magic woven together. Excellent, Blackthorne praised. What you're seeing is my magical lineage, generations of magic passed down through blood. Now, compare to your own. Harry shifted his focus to his own blood drop. The difference was startling. Where Blackthorn's magic formed orderly, deliberate patterns, Harry's was a brilliant storm of energy, wilder, less structured, but somehow more vibrant. Mine's different, Harry observed. More chaotic. Raw power versus refined technique, Blackthorne explained. My blood reflects decades of disciplined practice. Yours shows extraordinary natural potential but little formal structure. He waved his hand, and the water in the bowl evaporated, leaving the blood drops suspended in air. With another gesture, they vanished completely. Blood listening is the foundation of advanced techniques, Blackthorne continued. Before you can influence blood, you must understand its nature completely. Practice this daily, examine your own blood at this detailed level, then gradually extend to others. Over the next few sessions, Harry made rapid progress with blood listening. He discovered he could distinguish individual magical signatures in blood. Sirius's had a canine undertone even in human form, while Dumbledore's carried traces of thousands of spells cast over decades. By their sixth session, Blackthorne deemed him ready for more advanced work. Today, he announced, we begin blood speaking. What's that? Harry asked eagerly. The counterpart to listening, Blackthorne explained. Communicating directly with blood, not controlling it, but suggesting, influencing. Like whispering rather than commanding. Sirius shifted uncomfortably in his chair. That sounds dangerously close to Imperius territory. A common misconception, Blackthorne said smoothly. The Imperius curse overrides a person's will completely. Blood speaking merely creates favorable conditions for certain responses. The subject always retains free choice. He turned to Harry. For instance, I might speak to your blood to encourage faster healing of that scrape on your knee, not forcing it, just encouraging the natural process. Harry looked down, surprised. He had scraped his knee playing Quidditch with Sirius that morning but hadn't mentioned it. You can see that? He asked. Blood listening reveals recent injuries, Blackthorne nodded. May I demonstrate? After a glance at Sirius, who nodded reluctantly, Harry rolled up his pant leg, revealing a red scrape. Blackthorne didn't touch him. Instead, he focused intently on the injury. Harry felt a gentle warmth, then a tingling sensation as the scraped skin began to knit together before his eyes. Within seconds, only a faint pink mark remained. Wicked, Harry breathed. That was blood speaking in its simplest form, Blackthorne explained. I communicated with your blood, encouraging it to accelerate its natural healing process. Could I do that for other people? Harry asked excitedly. For worse injuries? With practice, certainly, Blackthorne nodded. Though more severe injuries require more complex communication. We'll work up to that gradually. He produced a small cage containing a white rat with a visible cut on its back. Perhaps you'd like to try. This rat was injured accidentally in my experiments. Nothing serious, but painful for the creature. Harry hesitated. I've never tried healing anyone but myself before. The principles are the same, Blackthorne encouraged. Listen first to understand the injury, then speak gently to encourage healing. Harry focused on the rat, engaging his blood listening. He could see the animal's tiny circulatory system, the disruption around the wound, the blood cells rushing to repair the damage. Now, Blackthorne instructed softly, imagine yourself speaking directly to those blood cells. Not commanding, inviting. Suggest that they work more efficiently, more quickly. Harry concentrated, mentally whispering to the rat's blood. Heal faster. Come together. Close the wound. To his amazement, the cut began to close, the edges pulling together until only a thin line remained. I did it! Harry exclaimed. Excellent work, Blackthorne praised. You have a natural affinity for healing. Most beginners require multiple attempts. Sirius looked impressed despite his reservations. That could be incredibly useful. No wonder you're interested in healing applications. The rat healing marked a turning point in Harry's training. Over the following weeks, Blackthornne introduced increasingly complex techniques: blood warming to fight off infections, blood cleansing to remove toxins, even blood mapping to track a person's movements through residual blood traces. Harry absorbed it all eagerly, particularly the healing applications. When Remus returned exhausted and injured after a full moon, Harry was able to accelerate his recovery significantly, closing cuts, reducing bruising, and easing the bone-deep aches that typically plagued him for days afterward. "That's remarkable," Remus said after one such healing session. "It usually takes me 3 days to feel this good." "Blackthorne says I have a natural talent for healing blood magic," Harry said proudly. "He's right about that," Sirius agreed. "Though I'm still not entirely comfortable with some of the other techniques he's teaching you." Harry knew what Sirius meant. Alongside the healing methods, Blackthorne had begun introducing more aggressive applications: techniques for temporarily slowing an opponent's blood to induce lethargy, methods for sensing deception that bordered on invasive, ways to establish dominance in magical duels by subtly influencing an opponent's blood pressure. "They're just for defense," Harry reminded his godfather. "Blackthorne says I need to understand all aspects of blood magic, even if I choose to focus on healing." "I know," Sirius sighed. "And after those Death Eaters nearly got you in Diagon Alley last year, I can't argue with you having every defensive tool possible. I just worry about the direction some of this training is taking." Harry understood Sirius's concerns. Lately, Blackthorne had been pushing him toward the more manipulative aspects of blood magic, sometimes seeming frustrated when Harry showed more interest in healing techniques. There was also the matter of the blood bonding ritual Blackthorne kept mentioning, supposedly a way to establish a mentor-student connection that would enhance Harry's learning, but which both Sirius and Dumbledore had flatly refused to consider. Still, Harry couldn't deny the progress he was making. His control had improved dramatically. He could now sense blood through walls, read emotional states with near-perfect accuracy, accelerate healing for increasingly serious injuries, and even perform basic blood speaking without conscious effort. "I'm being careful," Harry assured Sirius. "And you're always there watching. If anything seems wrong, we can stop." Sirius ruffled his hair affectionately. "Just keep those Potter instincts sharp, kiddo. Your dad could smell trouble a mile away, and your mum never trusted anyone without good reason. Between the two of them, you've got solid judgment in your blood." The mention of his parents' blood brought a question to Harry's mind, one he'd been pondering since Blackthorne's first demonstration of blood listening. "Sirius," he asked slowly, "do you think my blood magic comes from my parents? Blackthorne showed me how to see magical lineage in blood, and mine looks different from his. Wild and bright, not ordered." Sirius considered this thoughtfully. "Your mother was brilliant with charms and potions, both disciplines that can relate to blood magic in their ancient forms. And the Potters, well, they're an old family with some unusual magical talents through the generations. It's possible you inherited a predisposition from both sides. But neither of them were blood mages?" "Not that I know of," Sirius admitted. "But your mother's sacrifice created blood protection strong enough to defeat Voldemort. That suggests powerful innate blood magic, even if she never formally studied it." Harry nodded, satisfied with this explanation. It felt right that his abilities connected him to his parents somehow. "Can I ask you something else?" he ventured. "Always," Sirius replied immediately. "Do you think Blackthorne is telling us everything? About why he's helping me, I mean." Sirius's expression grew serious. "Honestly? No. Dumbledore and I have discussed it extensively. There's something he's holding back, some deeper interest in your abilities beyond what he's admitted." "I've sensed it too," Harry confessed. "Sometimes when he thinks I'm focusing on an exercise, I catch glimpses in his blood, excitement that seems excessive. And once, when I managed a particularly difficult healing technique, he seemed almost disappointed, like he was hoping I'd fail." Has he pushed you to try controlling someone's blood against their will? Sirius asked sharply. Not directly, Harry said carefully. But he keeps creating scenarios in our training where that would be the easiest solution. When I find healing alternatives, he calls them roundabout or inefficient. Sirius's jaw tightened. I've noticed. Dumbledore has too. We've been discussing whether to continue the training. But I'm learning so much, Harry protested. And most of it is really useful. I know, pup, Sirius sighed. That's the dilemma. You're making incredible progress, and as much as I hate to admit it, Blackthorne knows things about blood magic that none of us could teach you. But his motivations trouble me. People who keep secrets usually have something to hide. Harry couldn't argue with that logic. What should I do? Keep learning, Sirius decided after a moment. But be careful what you reveal about the full extent of your abilities. And Harry? If he ever asks you to do something that feels wrong, anything at all, you shut it down immediately. Blood magic or not, you're still Harry Potter, and you have the right to draw your own boundaries. I will, Harry promised. 2 days later, Harry had his most unsettling session with Blackthorne yet. They'd been working on blood tracking, following a person through traces of blood they left behind, even microscopic amounts. Using samples Blackthorne provided, supposedly from voluntary donors, Harry had successfully tracked 3 different magical signatures through a maze Blackthorne created in the basement. Excellent work, Blackthorne praised. You've mastered the basics more quickly than I anticipated. Harry beamed at the compliment. Despite his reservations about some aspects of Blackthorne's teaching, he couldn't help feeling proud when he mastered difficult techniques. Now, Blackthorne continued, let's attempt something more challenging. He produced a small vial containing a red-black liquid. This is blood from a magical creature, a thestral. I'd like you to attune to its unique properties. Harry took the vial curiously. He'd read about thestrals, winged horses visible only to those who had witnessed death, but had never seen one himself. As he opened the vial, something felt immediately wrong. The blood inside was almost black, moving sluggishly, and emanated a cold sensation that made Harry's fingers tingle unpleasantly. This isn't thestral blood, Harry said, quickly recapping the vial. It's human blood. And it's been altered somehow. Blackthorne's expression shifted almost imperceptibly. Very perceptive. You're right, it's human blood that's undergone a specific ritual. I wanted to test your ability to detect magical modifications. Harry frowned, suspicious. What kind of ritual? An ancient one, Blackthorne replied smoothly. Used to enhance certain magical properties in blood. Perfectly harmless for educational purposes. But Harry's blood listening told him otherwise. The blood in the vial carried echoes of pain, of unwilling sacrifice. It made his skin crawl. You're lying, Harry said flatly. This blood was taken without permission. And whatever was done to it hurt someone. From his corner, Sirius was instantly alert, hand moving to his wand. What's going on? Blackthorne sighed, his demeanor changing subtly. I see we've reached an impasse sooner than I expected. Yes, Mr. Potter, you're quite right. That blood was obtained through methods you might find ethically questionable. But such is often the nature of advanced magical study. Who did you take it from? Harry demanded. A vagrant, Blackthorne said dismissively. A squib with no family, no connections. Someone who contributed more to magical knowledge through this small sacrifice than they would have in their entire insignificant life otherwise. Harry stared at him, horrified. You hurt someone just to get their blood for an experiment? I advanced our understanding of blood magic, Blackthorne corrected coolly. Something your pathetic focus on healing cannot accomplish. Blood magic was never meant to be merely therapeutic, boy. It is about power, the ultimate power over life itself. Sirius was on his feet now, wand leveled at Blackthorne. I think this concludes today's lesson. And all future lessons. Blackthorne barely glanced at him. Put that away, Black. If I meant harm, you'd already be dead. Leave our home, Sirius growled. Now. Not without what I came for, Blackthorne replied calmly. His amber eyes fixed on Harry. I've invested months in your training, boy. Did you really think it was out of the goodness of my heart? You have something I need, raw power, untainted potential. The rest can be reshaped. Harry backed away, instinctively reaching for his blood magic. He could sense Blackthorne's blood now, the careful control slipping, revealing currents of dark, ancient power and cold calculation. What do you want from me? Harry asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Your blood, Blackthorne said simply. Or more precisely, the unique properties it carries. Blood protection from your mother, ancient Potter lineage from your father, and your own remarkable adaptations. Combined with my knowledge, it would unlock rituals not performed in millennia. You're not touching him, Sirius snarled, stepping between them. Blackthorne made a casual gesture. Harry watched in horror as Sirius suddenly clutched his chest, face contorting in pain. Sirius! Harry cried. A simple blood constriction, Blackthorne explained conversationally. Temporary, but quite painful. I could make it permanent with barely more effort. Harry's fear transformed instantly to rage. Without thinking, he lashed out with his own blood magic, forcing his way through Blackthorne's defenses and seizing control of the blood in the man's right arm, the one directing magic at Sirius. Blackthorne's eyes widened in surprise as his arm went rigid. Impressive, he acknowledged, genuinely sounding pleased despite the situation. But amateurish. With his left hand, he made another gesture. Harry felt a pressure around his own heart, not painful yet, but threatening. Release me, Blackthorne commanded, or discover how it feels to have your heart frozen in your chest. Sirius, still struggling against Blackthorne's blood magic, managed to fire off a spell. Stupefy. Blackthorne deflected it wandlessly, his concentration never wavering from the blood duel with Harry. I've had quite enough of this, he said, sounding irritated now. We're leaving, Mr. Potter. The easy way or the hard way? Harry felt the pressure around his heart increase. In desperation, he tried a technique Blackthorne had taught him just last week, blood speaking to enhance magical resistance. Focusing on his own blood, he mentally commanded it to resist the external influence, to maintain its normal flow regardless of Blackthorne's manipulation. To his amazement, it worked. The pressure eased as his blood responded to his own instructions rather than Blackthorne's. How? Blackthorne began, looking genuinely startled. Harry didn't wait for him to recover. He expanded his blood speaking to include Sirius, helping his godfather's blood resist Blackthorne's control. Then, gathering all his strength, he pushed outward, not trying to control Blackthorne's blood this time, but to disrupt his concentration. You taught me blood listening, Harry said through gritted teeth. So I heard what your blood's been hiding. You're dying. Some disease even blood magic can't cure completely. That's why you need me, you're looking for a way to save yourself. Blackthorne's composure cracked. Clever boy. Yes, I'm dying, a rare magical malady that resists all conventional treatment. But with your blood, with the protection it carries. I could create a cure. We could create a cure, together. By hurting innocent people. Harry shot back. By taking their blood against their will. That's not healing, that's just selfishness. It's survival, Blackthorne hissed. Something a child like you, coddled and protected your whole life, wouldn't understand. Sometimes power must be taken. Not my power, Harry declared. With a final push, he broke through Blackthorne's remaining defenses and found what he was looking for, the center of the man's blood magic, the core where his control originated. For a moment, Harry was tempted to crush it, to disable Blackthorne's abilities permanently. But that would make him no better than the man himself. Instead, he created a disruption, a temporary interference that scattered Blackthorne's carefully maintained blood control. Blackthorne gasped, staggering backward as his own blood momentarily rebelled against his iron discipline. In that instant of weakness, Sirius struck again. Incarcerus. Ropes shot from his wand, binding Blackthorne tightly. The blood mage struggled against them, but with his concentration broken, his powers were temporarily diminished. Dumbledore, Sirius said urgently to the fireplace. Emergency. Blackthorne. Seconds later, the fire flared green, and Dumbledore stepped through, wand already drawn. Taking in the scene instantly, he moved to reinforce Sirius's binding spell with more powerful magic of his own. Claudius, Dumbledore said sadly. I had hoped my suspicions were wrong. You've always been a fool, Albus, Blackthorne spat. Seeing only what you want to see. The boy has power beyond your comprehension. Power that could revolutionize wizarding society if properly harnessed. Harry is not a tool to be harnessed, Dumbledore replied calmly. He is a child to be protected and guided. Protected? Blackthorne laughed harshly. You call this protection? He nearly defeated me in a direct blood duel. At 8 years old. You're not protecting him, you're wasting his potential with your mundane morality. Harry, breathing hard from the magical exertion, found his voice. My potential is mine to use. Not yours. And I choose to heal, not to hurt. Blackthorne's eyes narrowed. For now, perhaps. But blood magic has a way of revealing one's true nature eventually. We'll see what choices you make when real power calls to you. That's enough, Dumbledore said firmly. With a complex wand movement, he cast a silencing spell on Blackthorne. Sirius, are you and Harry injured? Just shaken, Sirius replied, putting an arm around Harry's shoulders. Thanks to Harry's quick thinking. He disrupted Blackthorne's blood magic somehow. Dumbledore turned to Harry, his expression a mixture of concern and pride. How did you manage that, Harry? Blood magic disruption is extremely advanced. I used what he taught me against him, Harry explained. Blood listening showed me his weakness, his disease. And blood speaking let me help Sirius resist his control. Most impressive, Dumbledore acknowledged. Though I regret you were put in such a position. What will happen to him? Harry asked, looking at the bound Blackthorne. He will face the Wizengamot for his crimes, Dumbledore replied gravely. Blood magic itself is not illegal, but using it to harm others certainly is. And I suspect once we investigate further, we'll find this is not his first offense. Blackthorne's eyes burned with hatred above the silencing spell. He managed to work one hand free enough to make a subtle gesture. Before anyone could react, a thin stream of blood shot from his finger toward Harry. Blood binding. Sirius shouted in alarm. Dumbledore moved with surprising speed, interposing himself between Harry and the stream of blood. The crimson liquid splashed against an invisible shield emanating from Dumbledore's wand. A desperate attempt, Dumbledore said coldly. And one that will add to your charges, Claudius. Harry stared at the blood droplets suspended in the air before Dumbledore's shield. What was he trying to do? Form a blood bond without your consent, Sirius explained, his voice shaking with anger. It would have created a permanent connection between you, giving him access to your abilities, your power, even from a distance. The very ritual he's been subtly suggesting for months, Dumbledore added. Now we see his true intention. Aurors arrived minutes later, taking the still silenced Blackthorne into custody. As they left, Blackthorne locked eyes with Harry one final time. Even without words, his message was clear, this isn't over. After the commotion settled, Harry sat at the kitchen table, a mug of hot chocolate growing cold before him. The events of the afternoon had left him drained both physically and emotionally. You okay, pup? Sirius asked gently, sitting beside him. I guess, Harry replied. I trusted him. I knew he wasn't telling us everything, but I never thought he was evil. Not evil, perhaps, Dumbledore said, joining them. Desperate. Corrupted by fear of his own mortality. The disease Harry sensed is real, a rare magical malady that gradually turns a wizard's blood against them. Claudius likely saw Harry as his last hope for a cure. That doesn't excuse what he tried to do, Sirius said firmly. No, it doesn't, Dumbledore agreed. But understanding his motivation may help Harry process the betrayal. Harry looked up. Was anything he taught me real? Or was it all just to manipulate me? The techniques were real, Dumbledore assured him. Claudius Blackthornne is, or was, a genuine master of blood magic. His knowledge is authentic, even if his intentions were not. So I can still use what I learned. For good things, I mean, healing and protection. Absolutely, Sirius nodded. The magic itself isn't corrupt, just how he wanted you to use it. Harry considered this. He said something that bothered me. That blood magic reveals our true nature eventually. What did he mean? Dumbledore and Sirius exchanged glances. Blood magic is intimately connected to a wizard's core self, Dumbledore explained carefully. Legend says it eventually aligns with the practitioner's deepest nature, amplifying their true character, for better or worse. So if someone's basically good? Harry prompted. Their blood magic tends toward protection, healing, strengthening, Dumbledore nodded. While those with darker tendencies find it easier to control, manipulate, or harm. He seemed surprised that healing came so naturally to me, Harry recalled. Because it reveals something about your fundamental character, Sirius said with obvious pride. Something I already knew, you're James and Lily's son through and through. Good to your core, kid. Harry smiled faintly at that. I was tempted, you know. When I broke through his defenses. I could have hurt him badly. But you didn't, Dumbledore pointed out. You chose disruption over destruction. That choice matters more than the temptation. Harry nodded, somewhat reassured. What happens now? With my training, I mean. We continue, Sirius said firmly. But more carefully. Dumbledore's found some additional texts on blood magic healing traditions. And there's a witch in South America who specializes in protective blood magic, she's agreed to consult with us occasionally. And I believe, Dumbledore added, that young Mr. Potter has demonstrated sufficient mastery to begin developing his own techniques, under appropriate supervision of course. Really? Harry perked up. Your solution today was innovative, Dumbledore acknowledged. Using blood listening to identify weakness and blood speaking to counter direct control, a combination I don't believe even Blackthornne had considered. It suggests you're ready for more self-directed study. The next few days passed in a blur of activity. The cottage's wards were completely rebuilt, strengthened against blood magic specifically. Aurors interviewed Harry about his experiences with Blackthornne, carefully documenting the man's methods and teachings for evidence. Reporters from the Daily Prophet attempted to get statements about the blood mage attack on the boy who lived, necessitating additional privacy charms. Through it all, Harry continued practicing the techniques he'd learned, focusing exclusively on healing and protection. He found that without Blackthornne's influence pushing him toward control and manipulation, his natural affinity for healing aspects flourished even more. A week after Blackthornne's arrest, Harry sat in the garden behind their cottage, practicing blood listening with a small injured bird Remus had found. As he attuned to its tiny, rapid circulation, identifying the damaged wing and beginning gentle blood speaking to accelerate healing, Sirius watched from the back step. You're getting better at that, Sirius observed as the bird's wing gradually straightened under Harry's careful ministrations. Faster, with less visible effort. It's easier without Blackthornne criticizing my inefficient healing focus, Harry replied, gently stroking the bird's feathers. I can concentrate on what feels right instead of what he thought was important. The bird chirped, testing its wing with a small flutter. Finding itself healed, it took off into the clear blue sky. "You know," Sirius said, sitting beside Harry on the grass, "your mum would be incredibly proud of how you're using these abilities. She was a healer at heart too, always patching up James and me after our more reckless adventures." Harry smiled at the thought. "Do you think she knew? About the blood magic potential, I mean." "I doubt it," Sirius admitted. "Blood magic was considered obscure even in our time. But the instinct to protect, to heal. That was pure Lily. Just like it's pure Harry." Harry leaned against his godfather's shoulder, watching the bird soar higher into the distance. "Blackthornne said blood calls to blood. That's how he found me. Do you think, are there others out there? Other blood mages who might sense what I can do?" Sirius tensed slightly. "It's possible. Blackthornne can't have been the only one studying these arts. But if they're out there, they'll find you much better prepared next time." "And not alone," Harry added. "Never alone," Sirius agreed firmly. "Family sticks together, by blood or by choice." As if to emphasize the point, the back door opened, and Remus emerged carrying a tray of lemonade. "Thought you two might be thirsty after all that healing work." The three of them sat in the garden, enjoying the peaceful afternoon. But as Harry sipped his lemonade, he couldn't shake the memory of Blackthornne's parting look, the unspoken promise of return. Something told him his journey with blood magic was just beginning, and that darker challenges lay ahead. For now, though, he had family, he had purpose, and he had growing mastery of his unique gifts. Whatever came next, he would face it with blood magic guided by his own moral compass, not by others' ambitions. "What are you thinking about so seriously?" Sirius asked, noticing Harry's distant expression. Harry smiled. "Just that blood doesn't lie. And mine tells me we'll be okay." As he said it, he realized he believed it completely. Blood didn't lie, and neither did family, at least not the family he'd found in Sirius and Remus. Whatever Blackthornne had planned, whatever future threats might emerge, Harry knew where he belonged and what his magic was meant to do. Heal. Protect. Strengthen. Not control or manipulate or destroy. That was his blood's true calling, and he intended to honor it. The bird he'd healed circled back, landing briefly on a nearby shrub as if in gratitude before taking flight again. Harry watched it go, feeling a deep satisfaction that no amount of Blackthornne's power-focused training could ever have provided. This was what blood magic was meant for. This was what felt right in his veins, in his heart. And no one, not Blackthornne, not any future blood mage who might seek him out, would convince him otherwise. Blood called to blood, after all. And Harry Potter's called to life, to healing, to protection. That was a power worth mastering, worth fighting for. A power truly his own. Chapter 3, The Reckoning. "You're going to wear a hole in the floor," Sirius said, watching Harry pace back and forth in front of the fireplace for the 20th time. "The Hogwarts Express isn't leaving for another 3 hours." Harry couldn't help it. After 7 years of preparation, private tutoring, and careful training, he was finally going to Hogwarts as a proper student. Not just visiting for lessons with Dumbledore or accompanying Sirius for meetings, but actually living there, taking classes, making friends his own age. "What if they think I'm weird?" Harry blurted out. "What if I accidentally read someone's blood without permission and they hate me?" Sirius barked out a laugh. "Kid, you defeated Voldemort as a baby, you've got a lightning bolt scar on your forehead, and you can literally control people's blood. Weird doesn't begin to cover it." "Not helping, Sirius," Remus called from the kitchen. "What?" "I'm just saying he should embrace his uniqueness." Sirius ruffled Harry's perpetually messy hair. "Look, you've spent the last 3 years mastering control. You don't read blood without consciously choosing to anymore. And you've practiced being around crowds in Diagon Alley without accidentally sensing everyone." Harry nodded, trying to settle his nerves. Sirius was right. Ever since the Blackthornne incident when he was 8, he'd focused obsessively on control, not the manipulative control Blackthornne had tried to teach him, but self-control. The ability to turn his blood sense on and off at will, to maintain privacy boundaries, to use his gifts ethically. "I just don't want to start off on the wrong foot," Harry admitted. "Most kids get to be normal before they show what makes them different. Everyone's going to know me as the boy who lived before I even open my mouth." "Then show them who Harry really is," Remus said, emerging from the kitchen with a plate of toast. "Not the legend, not the blood mage, just you. The kid who falls off his broom trying to catch chocolate frogs and who still sleeps with his stuffed dog when he thinks no one's looking." "I don't," Harry started to protest, then caught Sirius's knowing smirk. "Fine. Maybe sometimes. Eat something." Remus pushed the toast toward him. "You'll need your strength for all the handshaking and autographs." "There won't be autographs," Harry grumbled, grabbing a piece. 10 galleons says someone asks within the first hour, Sirius challenged. "Absolutely not," Remus cut in. No betting on Harry's social discomfort. Harry grinned despite his nerves. This was what he'd miss most, the easy banter between Sirius and Remus, the constant feeling of being loved and accepted completely, weird blood powers and all. "What if I get put in Slytherin?" he asked suddenly. It was a fear he hadn't voiced before. Sirius and Remus exchanged looks. "Then Slytherin will be lucky to have you," Sirius said without hesitation. "Though they won't know what hit them when you start redecorating their dungeon with Gryffindor colors." "Sirius," Remus warned. "What?" "I'm being supportive." Sirius protested. "Look, Harry, your mom was almost sorted into Ravenclaw, and she turned out perfect. Your dad was Gryffindor through and through, but some of his best qualities were pure Hufflepuff loyalty. Houses don't define you." "But everyone expects Harry Potter to be in Gryffindor," Harry pointed out. "All the more reason to shake things up if the hat says otherwise," Sirius grinned. "Can you imagine the Daily Prophet headlines? Boy who lived breaks tradition, Wizarding world in shock." Harry laughed despite himself. "You're terrible." "I'm realistic," Sirius corrected. "And I know my godson. Wherever you end up, you'll make us proud." 2 hours later, they stood on platform 9 3/4, surrounded by the chaos of families saying goodbye. Harry tried not to flinch as his blood sense picked up the heightened emotions flooding the platform: excitement, anxiety, reluctance, relief. He'd gotten better at blocking the automatic reading of blood signatures in crowds, but intense emotions still leaked through sometimes. "Remember what we practiced," Sirius murmured, noticing Harry's discomfort. "Focus shields first, then selective scanning only if necessary." Harry nodded, taking a deep breath and visualizing the mental barriers Dumbledore had helped him develop, not a clemency exactly, but a specialized technique for blood mages to prevent passive sensing. The emotional flood receded to a manageable background hum. "Better," Harry confirmed. "You've got the mirror?" Sirius asked for the third time, referring to the enchanted two-way mirror they'd used to communicate. "Yes, and the emergency port key disguised as a watch, and the special parchment that alerts you if I'm in danger, and the defensive amulet Dumbledore made," Harry recited. "I'm the most protected kid in wizarding history, Sirius. And the most move on to the next chapter." The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.